Chapter 1914. The man's face was ferocious, and his eyes were ferocious. It was hard to tell how many years he had lived, but his eyes were full of vicissitudes and suffering. Whoosh! The man struggled slightly, and the iron chains shook violently. Even though his soul and divine power were sealed by so many iron chains, the esoteric laws around him rippled. Let me ask you. Xia Jiulong shouted word by word. Did someone enter this place? Was it these two? Whoosh! The faces of Yi Qinghan and Emperor Feng were revealed. Their temperament and appearance were exactly the same. However, the trapped man did not show any emotion. He neither admitted nor denied it. It could be understood that he did not want to talk to Xia Jiulong at all. Boom! Xia Jiulong was furious. He punched the man's chest, and the mountain rocks cracked. The man's chest was almost penetrated. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, but he did not scream. Instead, he grinned. You're scared. A voice spread inexplicably. The man did not speak, and he could not use his divine power to transmit his voice, but his voice came out inexplicably. You think I'm scared? Ha ha ha, they're just two ants. Xia Jiulong laughed angrily. Ants. I didn't expect that a self-deceiving person like you could come this far. If they were really ants, why didn't you kill them? Instead, you sent them away. Ha ha ha, although I can't move, I'm not blind. I'm happy to see you scared, the man roared loudly. However, his voice could only echo around the valley. It could not reach the outside world. A layer of ripples appeared in the sky and gently rippled, isolating the sound. Xia Jiulong's body emitted a layer of transparent flames. His eyes were sharp, and he stared at the man angrily. If I'm afraid of torture, how could I end up like this? Do it if you want to. The man's voice was deep and powerful. He did not sound like someone who had been imprisoned for many years. His origin must be shocking. Huff, huff, huff. Xia Jiulong, who was always calm and collected, lost his composure at this moment. He took a few deep breaths, snorted and said, whether they found you or not, they will die. It's just a matter of time. You can stay here in peace. Don't think about going out in this lifetime. Then, Xia Jiulong flicked his sleeves and left. While the Quanzong was fighting against the strongest force in the great world, a joyous event took place in Zhuzhou. The little money grubber had been cooped up in Yi Qinghan's bedchamber for thousands of years. Her body was almost moldy. She was about to lose all hope. You bastard, if it wasn't for you, how much wealth would I have earned? But even after incubating you for thousands of years, there's still not a single cent. The little money grubber hugged the egg in despair. Her eyes were lifeless as she spoke weakly. He didn't know how many times he had repeated this sentence. Even the little money grubber himself didn't know how many times he had repeated it. Every time he felt that there was hope for the little divine bird to hatch, he was disappointed every time. Gulp, a crisp sound came from within the egg. The little miser looked angrily at the big golden egg beneath him and scolded angrily. Crack, what followed was a cracking sound, and a crack appeared on the eggshell. Ha ha ha, this bastard has finally spoken. I'm finally free, ha ha ha, the little money grubber's body trembled as he said ecstatically. Crack. Crack. After the first cracking sound rang out, the entire eggshell shattered, and a beam of light shot out. God power surged out, and a small parrot appeared, glowing with white sage light. Trembling, it rose to its feet and began to nibble on the eggshell. Bitch, you bastard, you're so irresponsible. You left after having your fun, leaving me alone. How am I supposed to serve it? The little money grubber watched the little divine bird break out of the eggshell. A wave of despair surged from the bottom of her heart. She didn't know what to do. The little divine bird nibbled on the eggshell for a while before lazily lying on the bed with its two legs in the air. It looked at the little money grubber and actually said in a small voice, "This eggshell is really disgusting. Mother, you're crying like an ugly monster. Have you been ruined by someone?" The little divine bird had accumulated too much energy. Although it had just been born, it had been influenced by the little money grubber. It was probably half a money grubber now. Coupled with the wretched inheritance of the divine bird, this little bird had angered the little money grubber since birth. "You little bastard. Damn it. I've been angered to death by you all these years. That damn father of yours died early. Do you want to anger your mother to death?" The little money grubber roared in exasperation. The little divine bird's eyes were filled with curiosity. It said in astonishment, "I'm still young, so don't lie to me. My father died?" "Yes. He died," the little money grubber roared. "He fell into a cesspool and choked to death." The little divine bird pretended to cooperate and howled, "Father, you died so miserably. You left behind an old and useless mother. What should a young me do?" The little money grubber's breathing stagnated. It really wanted to slap this little bastard, but it felt that it was still too young, so it forcibly restrained itself. Whoosh! Whoosh! The little money grubber's body trembled. It hadn't moved for so many years, so it was a bit unaccustomed to it. The little divine bird looked at the little money grubber's tired back, and its heart ached. It quickly caught up and said, "Ah, mother, you don't have to be like this. I'll take care of you in the future. As the saying goes, compassion feeds back. I still have this bit of filial piety." The little money grubber's breathing shook, and it hugged its head with its wings. It really didn't want to communicate with the little divine bird, so it ran outside and shouted, "Men! Are they all dead? Men, quickly come and drag this little bastard away." Hua! Desolate Lord Yi was the first to arrive. Seeing the little divine bird that had been cooped up in the egg for thousands of years, he was immediately overjoyed. "Ha ha ha, this fellow is finally willing to come out. I wonder if the cheap bird will be happy to know." The little divine bird looked at desolate Lord Yi and asked curiously, "Who is the cheap bird?" "Your father," desolate Lord Yi replied with a smile. "Your father is the cheap bird. Why are you cursing people?" Although the little divine bird was still young, it knew to protect its father's reputation and immediately reprimanded. Desolate Lord Ye's face twitched, and a trace of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. "Stinking brat, my father is your father's master. You actually dared to call your father's master a cheap bird." Desolate Lord Yi angrily reprimanded. The little divine bird rolled its eyes and rudely said, "My father's master isn't my master. What does it have to do with me? A great immortal beast like me doesn't have a master. However, I can take you in as a little brother." Pa! The little money grubber spread its wings and slapped the little divine bird. It angrily said, "You little brat, you haven't even grown your feathers and you're already talking nonsense. Even your father isn't as capable as you." The little divine bird felt wronged, but it didn't dare to refute. However, desolate Lord Yi still understood this strange divine bird. Its son would definitely cause him worry, so he wasn't angry. Instead, he was very happy. He hurriedly ordered a banquet to celebrate. Chapter 19:15. The divine bird didn't know anything about the birth of the little divine bird. Instead, it kept sneezing as if it was being cursed. Heaven-reaching school, Jia courtyard. Immortal energy lingered in the air. The environment was tranquil and had an aura of being aloof from worldly affairs. There were 7 or 8 pavilions in the middle of a mountain stream. Pedestrians were everywhere. Handsome men and beautiful women were very harmonious. Compared to the competition between the great powers in the outside world, this place was definitely a holy land. Yi Qinghan was brought into the courtyard by Wen Su and attracted many curious gazes. A group of children chattered and talked about Yi Qinghan. Such a handsome man. Is he the man who took away the immortal medicine? A 15 or 16-year-old girl's face was full of stars. Her worship had long since spread out. How is he handsome? He's not even as good as me. Little sister Hao Lian, why can't you see such a shining star like me? A handsome little boy said with a helpless expression. The cute little girl looked at the handsome little boy with disdain and said without any politeness, Senior brother Peng Feihu, are you blind? He's mature and you're still wet behind the ears. How can it be the same? Fuck. The little boy called Peng Feihu was flustered and exasperated. However, he didn't dare to behave atrociously in front of the little girl. He could only hang his head and look at Yi Qinghan's evil smile. He sniffed his nose and said with certainty, look at his evil face. I'm sure he's not a good person. Little sister Hao Lian, you must not get close to him. Envy, jealousy, hatred. I understand. This kind of man makes you feel ashamed, so you're thinking of ways to slander him. I won't expose you. The little girl Hao Lian said without any politeness. Peng Feihu immediately covered his head with a helpless expression. He didn't want to discuss this topic with Hao Lian anymore. Yi Qinghan walked over from afar. He didn't listen to their conversation. Instead, he followed behind Wen Su and focused his attention on the stone tablet in the courtyard. The tablet was inscribed with endless profound laws. It had weathered the vicissitudes of life for countless years and had long lost its former grandeur. However, he was still very interested in it. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan walked past the group of young men and women without looking sideways. His white robes fluttered in the wind, giving him an imposing appearance. Wow, so handsome, a young boy worshipped Yi Qinghan's imposing manner. He propped his chin up with both hands and moved closer to Yi Qinghan. Pa! Yi Qinghan gently slapped her face and pushed her to the side. He said calmly, go play somewhere else. My sexual orientation is normal. The little boy's face immediately turned red. He was ridiculed to the point where he was unable to show his face. Feng Huang smiled as he followed behind. Looking at this group of young people, he felt that they were much younger. Wen Su walked in from outside the courtyard with a dignified face. The group of little fellows immediately knelt down to pay their respects. Greetings, Grand Master. Hao Lian, Peng Feihu, and the others knelt and said. Wen Su looked at the group of little fellows and shook his head repeatedly. He said in a deep voice, in the future, when you see Yi Qinghan, you must respectfully address him as Marshal Uncle Yi. You cannot be unruly. Yes, Grand Master. These little fellows were the youngest generation. Their cultivation levels were very low, some were only at the monarch level. You may all leave. Wen Su waved his hand and dismissed the group of little fellows. Only Yi Qinghan and Feng Huang were left in the courtyard. Wen Su did not say anything else. He looked at Feng Huang and said, Feng Huang, you are not a member of my sky-reaching school. This old man will not stay any longer. Please leave. Feng Huang clasped his fists and said respectfully, thank you senior for escorting me. This junior is eternally grateful. Wen Su looked at Feng Huang and sighed, AI, take care of yourself. The road ahead might be even more dangerous. Be careful. Yi Qinghan looked at Wen Su's expression and knew that Xia Jiulong would not allow Feng Huang to live. He said, Brother Feng Huang, if you have nowhere to go, why don't you go to the heaven-suppressing city? My insane sect is stationed there. As long as you enter the city, I believe that Xia Jiulong will not harm you unless he personally acts. Feng Huang exhaled and shook his head with a bitter smile, I'm afraid that I may not have the chance to leave the sky-reaching school. Regardless, I am still grateful for Senior and Brother Ye's care. I am already free from the prison. I have seen through life and death. I will take my leave now. If fate wills it, we will meet again. With that, Feng Huang bowed and left. Looking at his expression, one could tell that he did not have much hope of surviving. Looking at Feng Huang's departure, Yi Qinghan was in a daze for a long time. He then looked at Wen Su and frowned. "Senior, you won't personally act against Feng Huang, right?" Wen Su's face was emotionless. He shook his head and said, "This has nothing to do with my sky-reaching school. No matter what, my sky-reaching school is still the #1 sect in the world. Why would I act against a brat?" Hearing this, Yi Qinghan heaved a sigh of relief. However, Wen Su's next words made him feel as if he had fallen into an ice cave. "It doesn't matter if my piercing heaven school intervenes or not, Feng Huang won't have the chance to escape. This person came from a strong school, but it was the weakest school among the strong schools. Although this Feng Huang had fought against Xia Jiulong, but he had offended Xia Jiulong, so how could the strong school behind him survive? If I am not wrong, Feng Huang will go to his own sect first. When that time comes, he will walk right into the trap," Wen Su said with certainty. Hiss, Yi Qinghan sucked in a deep breath of cold air. It was as if there was something stuck in his chest that he couldn't exhale. His expression was somewhat ugly. Wen Su looked at Yi Qinghan's expression and shook his head. "You'd better pray for yourself. You can't save Feng Huang. You should think of a way to save yourself." Yi Qinghan was not willing to let the Feng Huang he saved die. His fingertips trembled. After a long time, his eyes flashed and he asked curiously, "Senior, what kind of person will have stars appear on their body?" Wen Su frowned and thought for a moment. "Some talented people will have a birthmark mark. There may be stars, sun, moon, and other marks, so it's hard to say. Senior, can you let this junior read the ancient records of your sky-reaching school?" Yi Qinghan asked again. Wen Su did not refuse. He led Yi Qinghan into a library and said, "You can read anything below the 9th floor. Anything above the 9th floor is forbidden." Yi Qinghan did not dare to ask about the 9 stars. This matter involved the secret of the Holy Empire. If it was exposed, the Holy Empire would kill him at all costs. Therefore, he could only search the ancient records himself. Perhaps he could find some clues. Feng Huang left sky-reaching city and changed into a simple linen robe. He looked like an ordinary adventurer without any domineering aura. Swish! 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 As soon as Feng Huang left the city, he turned into a bolt of lightning and disappeared into the depths of the mountains. Outside the city, spies were operating at high speed, constantly sending news to the distance. At the border between the sky-reaching school and the Holy Empire, Xian Xiu brought the 9 prefectures and hid in the depths of the mountains. After receiving the news, he rushed to the God-Sealing mountain range. That was where Feng Huang's sect was before. Chapter 1916. The Investiture God Mountain Range was a ruin. 30,000 years ago, the Investiture God sect was one of the strongest sects in the world. However, it collapsed overnight, leaving no survivors. The ancient temple was in ruins, and the herb garden was filled with immortal energy. However, no one picked the herbs. Even adventurers didn't want to come here because the resentment was too strong. White bones were everywhere. Some of the skeletons had already rotted. These people had all been killed by high-level profound mysteries. The divine power contained in their bones had all been shattered, unable to preserve these skeletons for a long time. Therefore, there was not a single complete skeleton in this place. A few months later, a figure appeared in the Investiture God mountain range. His hemp clothes were fluttering in the wind. Caw. The emperor's eyes were cold and sharp as he stared at the despairing mountain range. The fire in his heart was strong enough to burn the 9 heavens. After being imprisoned for 30,000 years, when he looked back, he realized that things were still the same but people had changed. Even such a powerful sect was about to be destroyed. Xia Jiulong. Feng Huang roared. He had endured countless sufferings without shedding a single tear. However, at this moment, his tears were flowing like a river. Boom! Feng Huang knelt on the ground of the investiture god sect. He was exhausted and kept kowtowing. His head was bleeding, and sand and stones were flying everywhere. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. It's all my fault." Feng Huang roared. It was unknown how many lives had been lost because of his confrontation with Xia Jiulong. His entire sect had been destroyed. When Feng Huang stepped into the investiture god mountain range, 10 figures were rapidly approaching. The Jade clan in the southeast also sent more than 10 figures to the investiture god mountain range. The Western Holy Land in the south directly sent people to block the exit of the investiture god mountain range. The investiture god mountain range was sealed by the 4 Holy Lands. Heaven-piercing Church, Jade clan, Western Holy Land, and Central Earth's Holy Empire were all blocked. If Feng Huang wanted to live, he could only escape in the direction of Heaven-piercing Church. However, Feng Huang didn't expect that Xia Jiulong was too strong. Wen Su couldn't take action, but the godchild of Heaven-piercing Church could. The godchild of Heaven-piercing Church was a direct disciple of Taoist Wan Hong called Yan Nanchuan. His cultivation base was not inferior to Feng Huang's, but he had a good reason to stop Feng Huang from entering Heaven-piercing Church. Swoosh swoosh. The figure flashed and the space fluctuated abnormally. Feng Huang, who was originally silent in sorrow, was suddenly awakened. He turned his head to look at the figure rushing over and was startled. It's Xian Xiu and the 9 prefectures. Emperor Feng's heart sank. He couldn't even defeat a mystic, let alone 9 prefectures. Boom! Feng Huang stomped on the ground and soared into the sky. He didn't care about hiding his cultivation level and directly fled in the direction of the sky-reaching school. However, Yan Nanchuan slowly drew his sword and Sword Qi soared into the sky. Emperor Feng, this matter has nothing to do with my sky-reaching church. Don't draw the flames of war into the sky-reaching church. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. A voice reverberated in the sky, shattering the Feng Huang's escape route to the sky-reaching church. Whoosh. Feng Huang didn't speak any nonsense. The transcending heaven church didn't want him to enter. So, he didn't need to resent them. Therefore, he turned around and rushed towards the Jade clan. There were more than 10 figures approaching from the Jade clan. When they were 3,000 miles away, Feng Huang had already sensed them. At this moment, he realized that whether it was the Jade clan, the Xishiang sacred land, or the Lan family, they all followed the Holy Empire's lead. Emperor Feng, you shouldn't have returned to the God Seal mountain range. Today, I, Xian Xiu, will send you on your way. It's your honor. Whoosh. Xian Xiu rushed from behind and the 9 prefectures joined forces to attack him. Feng Huang didn't say anything. He turned around and fled to the Xishiang sacred land. Most of the Xishiang sacred land was still in a primitive state. There were towering mountains and valleys. It was a dangerous place. If the Eternal Realm didn't come out, they might not be able to catch an expert like Feng Huang. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Boom. Feng Huang shuttled through the mountains and didn't dare to fly. He could only walk among the cliffs and cliffs. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Bang. Each of the 9 prefectures had a special divine crossbow in their hands. The arrows were engraved with runes and murderous inscriptions. They were specifically used to hunt and kill experts. The arrows were constantly being shot out, flying past the emperor's body. There were a few times when he was almost hit. Yi Qinghan, who was far away in the sky-reaching church, was reading ancient books eagerly, hoping to find out the identity of the man in the sky-sealing prison. Unfortunately, he had read for more than 3 months and searched all the books below the 4th floor, but there was no record of the 9-star alignment on his feet or on his body. Just as Yi Qinghan was about to enter the 5th floor of the library, the corner of his eyes suddenly twitched. It made him upset. Unable to read, Yi Qinghan could only walk out of the library. He saw Hao Lian and Peng Feihu arguing about something. The two quarreled when they met, but they liked to stick together every time. They were a pair of weirdos. When Hao Lian saw Yi Qinghan come out, her eyes were full of stars. She ran over and said, "Martial Uncle Yi, you're so handsome." Yi Qinghan glanced at her and said indifferently, "Thank you for the compliment." "Children, what were you arguing about?" "I'm not a child. Martial Uncle Yi, we were betting on whether or not that peerless emperor would be able to escape the pursuit of those great experts. I bet that he would not be able to, but junior sister Hao Lian insisted on debating with me. She is truly experienced and knowledgeable." Yi Qinghan frowned and quickly asked, "Oh. You said that emperor was being chased by great powerhouses. Do you know how many people are chasing after emperor and who are they?" I know. Martial Uncle Yi, I heard that His Highness the Crown Prince's #1 follower, Xian Xiu, brought the 9 great immortal mansion's disciples, Yao Clan and Shixiang Holy Land's people to chase after emperor. Sigh, I heard that they have been chasing for more than a month. Senior emperor is still alive, but he is injured. Now, inside Shixiang Holy Land, they are vigorously chasing after him. I bet that senior emperor can survive, but this guy is against me," Hao Lian said solemnly. Yi Qinghan was startled. No wonder he was always on tenterhooks. It turned out that emperor was in danger. While Yi Qinghan was lost in thought, Hao Lian asked, "Martial Uncle Yi, do you think Senior Feng Huang will be able to escape?" Yi Qinghan was awakened and casually said, "There should be no problem." With that, Yi Qinghan walked out. There was no one around to guard him. It seemed that they were not on guard against him and could even leave at any time. Yi Qinghan silently walked out of the courtyard. There were many disciples cultivating outside the courtyard. The environment was quiet and secluded. There were few disputes. The courtyard's master was teaching these young disciples to cultivate. Yi Qinghan thought for a moment and decided to go outside Tongtian City. If Tongtian School did not stop him, he would go to Shixiang Holy Land to rescue emperor. However, Yi Qinghan was stopped by the courtyard's master. "Sect Master Yi, you can't leave the courtyard. Please follow the rules and don't make it difficult for me," the courtyard's master said in a deep voice. Chapter 1917. The godson insisted that Yi Qinghan must not leave the Jie courtyard. Yi Qinghan shrugged. Since the Jie courtyard did not allow him to leave, he had no choice but to stay here as he was a hostage. However, Yi Qinghan would not sit still and wait for his death. He was thinking of a way to save Emperor Feng. The godson came to a spot not far away from Yi Qinghan and sat on a stone as if he was monitoring him. "Brother, how should I address you?" Yi Qinghan asked. "One word, Mo," the godson answered honestly. Yi Qinghan's eyelids twitched. Who only has one word in their name? Then, Dao friend Mo, can you provide a map of the Shixiang sacred ground and its surroundings? Yi Qinghan asked. You want to save Emperor Feng? Not even the insane sect can do it. You can try if you don't believe me. Mo then took out a star map that included the entire Fengshan mountain range. Half of the Shixiang sacred ground was included in the map. Yi Qinghan opened the map and quickly found the Fengshan mountain range. He then realized that the people from the 3 sacred grounds were all from the Saint Empire. He did not understand why Emperor Feng chose to enter the Shixiang sacred ground instead of the sky-reaching school. North of the Shixiang sacred ground was the Sword Dao Eternal World. However, it was too far away from the heaven-suppressing prefecture city. It was equivalent to passing through the entire Sword Dao sacred ground. Emperor Feng's current location meant that he had to pass through the Shixiang sacred ground to enter the Sword Dao eternal sacred ground. In the southeastern corner of the Shixiang sacred ground, there was a desolate mountain range covered in thorns and blood. Xiu xiu xiu. Xian Xiu and the 9 lords stepped on the thorns and searched for Emperor Feng with a distance of 300 to 500 meters. He took a palm strike from me and is now heavily injured. How far did he run? Search for him and find him even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground. Xian Xiu's eyes were like torches as he looked around and saw the blood on the thorns. A cold smile appeared on his face. The 10 of them sped along and entered a valley. They discovered that the trail of blood had been cut off, as if it had disappeared into thin air. What should we do? The 9 prefectures looked at Xian Xiu and asked in a low voice. Xian Xiu leaped onto a peak and looked around. He scanned his surroundings for a long time, but he couldn't find any traces of the emperor. One of the servants reached out and touched a drop of blood essence. When he found that the blood was still warm, he was even more certain that the emperor was nearby. He didn't need the mystic to say anything. He looked around and found that there was only one path, so he led the others to chase after the emperor. Outside of the mountain range, on an even more dangerous cliff, Emperor Feng was coughing up blood. His entire arm was broken, and he was bathed in a river of blood. There was a sword in his left shoulder, and he was half dead. His face was ferocious as he leaned against a rock to hide his body. Boom boom boom. At this time, a large number of people shook the earth. Obviously, the cultivators of the Shixiang Holy Land had come to cooperate with the 10 great cultivators in the search. Emperor Feng was lying on the ground. He felt that the footsteps were getting closer and closer. They were only a few thousand meters away. If he didn't leave now, he would be discovered. He had no choice but to get up and run away. At the bottom of a cliff, clouds and mist swirled around it. It was impossible to tell how deep it was, and it blocked the emperor's path. Now that he was heavily injured, he couldn't even fly. Even if he could, he wouldn't dare to, because once he did, he would definitely be discovered by mystic cultivators. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Dong dong dong. Emperor Feng looked around and found that he was being chased. There were cliffs on both sides and in front of him was a cliff. He had reached a dead end. Does the heavens want me to die? Emperor Feng clenched his fists unwillingly. Blood kept flowing out. Crack crack crack. Feng Huang endured the pain and reconnected his broken bones. He rushed up the left side of the steep mountain range and moved north. His steps were very careful and difficult. After half an hour, he entered a cliff. There was a cave in the cliff, deep and dark. He didn't know where it led to, but he didn't have time to hesitate. He stepped into the cave and kept going deeper. However, 2 hours later, a group of soldiers discovered the bloodstains and screamed, hoping to attract Xian Xiu and the others. Whoosh! The first to rush over was a powerful prefecture. He saw the blood on the ground and looked around. Soon, he confirmed Emperor Feng's path. He jumped into the air and flew along the cliff on the left. One flew for a short time while the other walked. Emperor Feng's path was getting smaller and smaller. Just as the 9 prefectures and mystic cultivators were capturing the emperor, a piece of news exploded in the great world. The origin of the news was in a city in the Holy Kingdom of the Central Plains, and it was a group of children singing. Shixiang, Shixiang, the world is dead. There is a tomb on the mountain. One sword is eternal. All things die. A stone tablet is erected. All who enter will die. It was a very simple nursery rhyme. However, in the capital of the holy nation, Xia Jiulong flew into a rage and ordered the 9 prefectures and Xian Xiu to change their target. They temporarily stopped looking for Emperor Feng and went to find a tomb. This nursery rhyme spread in all directions. In the blink of an eye, it was spread in more than 10 large factions. No one knew who was behind this. Countless young warriors didn't understand the meaning behind it, but they knew that a huge tomb had appeared in the Xixiang Holy Land, and it might contain some supreme and profound arts. In just a few months, countless young warriors had gathered in the Xixiang Holy Land. Even the Holy Nation couldn't stop them. Too many people from the Holy Nation entered together. The Holy Nation couldn't force them out and could only let them run around like headless flies. However, the news that Xianxiu and the 9 prefectures were in the northwest corner of Xisiang quickly spread. Everyone thought that was where the burial ground was going to appear, so they rushed there like a swarm of bees, disrupting the plans of the 10 masters. There were strong cultivators everywhere, and it was impossible to tell where Feng Huang was. Left with no choice, Xia Jiulong personally took action. The dragon boat flew, releasing a heavenly aura that forced the experts to retreat. Inside the Jia courtyard of the sky-reaching school, Mo Ning looked at Yi Qinghan and asked, "What is the meaning of the nursery rhyme you asked me to spread?" Yi Qinghan smiled and shrugged, "Don't take it seriously. It's just a message to attract experts to disrupt Xianxiu and the others." "Do you think I'm stupid? If it's just a normal message, why would Xia Jiulong do it himself?" Mo Ning frowned and unceremoniously exposed Yi Qinghan's little lie. Yi Qinghan smiled but didn't say anything. He didn't want to reveal the secret of the nursery rhyme. The rhyme was true, but the location wasn't in Xisiang. It was in the eternal Sword Dao Sacred Grounds heaven-suppressing palace. "There are some things that I can't let you know now. When it's time to announce it, you'll be the first to know. However, you must not let anyone know that you're the one who spread the rhyme. Otherwise, the relationship between the sky-reaching school and the Holy Nation will turn cold. There might even be a war." Yi Qinghan reminded Mo Ning. Mo Xian was shocked. He didn't think that the rhyme he spread for Yi Qinghan contained such a huge secret. Chapter 1918. Yi Qinghan was far away in the Transcending Heaven Church. He controlled the general trend of the world. Countless forces had been stirred up. However, only a few high-level people like Xia Jiulong had truly understood this nursery rhyme. Too many people had been used as spears without knowing anything. When Mo Zai looked at Yi Qinghan again, he felt a chill down his spine. This kind of pervert was too sinister. He regretted agreeing to help him. Now that he had boarded the pirate ship, it would be difficult to get off. Yi Qinghan couldn't go over to help, but he could disrupt Xia Jiulong's deployment and allow Feng Huang to escape. At this moment, Feng Huang was surrounded by at least tens of thousands of years-old experts. There were people everywhere. Feng Huang was a bit confused. After a few times, he realized that they were not here for him, but for some so-called grave. Only then did he dare to run away. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The emperor fled 1,000 miles away. On this day, a dragon boat appeared in the sky, its pressure enveloping the mountains and rivers. Xia Jiulong stood at the head of the boat, his dragon robe fluttering in the wind. His eyes shone with a sharp light as he gently fanned himself with a feather fan in his hand. Xia Jiulong channeled his divine power and let out a thunderous roar that shook the mountains and rivers. His aura shook the 9 heavens and shattered the eardrums of the surrounding experts, causing them to bleed from their 7 orifices. Their faces turned pale as they retreated, looking at Xia Jiulong in panic. Swish. Hundreds of silhouettes rose into the air and jumped down from the dragon boat. Their movements were neat and uniform, causing the heaven and earth to rumble. The rhythm was urgent and oppressive. There were more than 400 people, and all of them were unrivaled kings. These people were personally selected by Xia Jiulong, and they were all loyal and devoted. They all wore battle robes and had divine swords at their waists. They were arranged in 2 rows, and their auras were like rainbows. In the middle, there were several dozen people carrying a dragon throne that was dazzling with golden light. Whoosh! Xia Jiulong soared into the sky and waved his hand to take away the dragon boat. He sat cross-legged on the dragon throne, and the banners swayed above the dragon throne. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Hundreds of figures were rushing over from afar. The fastest 10 among them were the 9 prefectures and the mystic cultivators. Welcome, Your Highness. Xian Xiu and the 9 prefectures knelt on one knee, extremely respectful. Where's Feng Huang? Xia Jiulong looked down at everyone and asked in a low voice. Gulp, everyone swallowed a mouthful of saliva and didn't dare to say anything. Only the 9 great prefectures and the mystics were able to maintain their composure, but their eyes were filled with fear. Your Highness, Feng Huang has already been heavily injured by me, but he still managed to escape. However, he did not escape far. These days, there have been too many people from powerful sects and holy lands. The so-called nursery rhyme should have been leaked out, disrupting our plan to capture him. Xian Xiu replied in a deep voice. Xia Jiulong leaned back on his throne and asked coldly, 9 holy sons and a veteran upper-level cultivator actually failed to capture a defeated general. Are you really the subordinates that I am proud of? Cold sweat dripped down the foreheads of the 9 prefectures. Even though they were prefectures, they were nothing in front of Xia Jiulong. Xian Xiu immediately said, this subordinate deserves 10,000 deaths. The 9 prefectures also did their best. Feng Huang was struck several times by my sword and was also struck by my palm. He is within a radius of 10,000 miles. How far did he run? Your Highness, please give us a chance to atone for our sins. We will definitely bring his head to you within a month. Xian Xiu immediately replied. The mission has changed. The main task is to find a large tomb. If you find any traces, immediately report to me. Kill anyone who dares to obstruct you, regardless of whether they are from a holy land or a powerful sect. Xia Jiulong said domineeringly. Yes, Your Highness. Xian Xiu and the others replied respectfully. Xia Jiulong waved his hand indifferently and said, get up and go. Xian Xiu and the others immediately bowed and retreated, leaving behind more than 400 guards to await further orders. You guys also go and find the large tomb. If you find any news, immediately fire the sky-piercing arrow. Whoosh, Xia Jiulong pierced through the sky. His figure flickered like the light of the stars, instantly appearing 100 miles away. The 9-star transformations was the world's #1 speed-type secret art. It was a divine art personally created by the holy nation's holy lord. It was rumored that no one could contend against it. Xia Jiulong walked between heaven and earth. Time and space were unable to restrict him, allowing him to pass through mountains and cliffs. His eyes shone brightly as he searched for Feng Huang's whereabouts. Feng Huang, this emperor has personally come to find you. Do you still want to hide? Xia Jiulong looked down and said coldly. Boom boom boom. In an instant, the mountains and rivers rumbled and the melody danced. Heaven and earth phenomena appeared. Dragons flew and phoenixes danced as lightning flashed through the sky. It was a terrifying sight. Feng Huang's face was pale as he hid behind a huge rock in the distance. His body was covered in immortal medicine. Without any pills, he could only use this method. His injuries had recovered slightly, but he was already not Xia Jiulong's opponent. Now, the gap between them was even greater. If he was discovered, Feng Huang wouldn't even have the chance to escape. Dong dong dong. Feng Huang's forehead was dripping with sweat. His clothes were dyed red with blood. His vigorous face revealed a sense of arrogance. His lone willow waist exuded coldness and a will to die. My Feng Shen sect's hatred must be avenged. Xia Jiulong, even if I die today, I will fight you to the death. Feng Huang roared in his heart as he tried to restrain his impulse. A divine sense covered tens of thousands of li. It was as if no corner could escape Xia Jiulong's divine sense. Within 10,000 li, no one dared to move. Feng Huang didn't move at all. He was like a huge rock that merged with the mountains and rivers. He only wanted to avoid Xia Jiulong's divine sense. In the end, divine sense wasn't as good as eyes. Even if Xia Jiulong's soul was powerful and could control everything within 10,000 li, he still couldn't pinpoint the location of an expert like Feng Huang. Not to mention, there were many experts within 10,000 li. All of you, get out of 10,000 li, otherwise, don't blame this emperor for being impolite. Xia Jiulong's shame turned into anger as he shouted. His voice was like the roar of a dragon, causing the experts in all directions to shiver. No one dared to argue with him. Ha ha ha, Crown Prince is too mighty. Just one sentence and the world doesn't dare to make a sound. A discordant voice resounded through the mountains and rivers. It was particularly ear-piercing. Xia Jiulong looked into the distance. The mountains and rivers were rolling as if the entire mountain range was moving. Who else could it be but Zhuo Shuguang? However, there was another person besides Zhuo Shuguang. It was Lin Wuqian. Lin Wuqian was naturally very annoyed with Xia Jiulong. His most respected master had been imprisoned by him. How could he be nice to him? Zhuo Shuguang was respected by the world as the #1 individual cultivator. Although his cultivation level was a little lower than Xia Jiulong's, his battle strength wasn't too far off. Moreover, Lin Wuqian was by his side. The two of them joined forces to fight against Xia Jiulong. They might not lose too badly. The two of them joined forces and stepped into the sky. They shook the air and distorted the space. Xia Jiulong's eyes flashed with killing intent. However, he couldn't kill Lin Wuqian. He couldn't help but sneer. So, it's you two little kids. What? Do you think you can challenge this Emperor's Majesty just because you've reached the middle level? I wouldn't dare. Isn't this flattering Crown Prince's Majesty? Crown Prince's Majesty is monstrous. Just one word and the whole world surrenders. Who dares to disobey the Emperor's order? Lin Wuqian said sarcastically. Xia Jiulong smiled indifferently and tapped the sky with his fingertips. The space distorted and changed the order of time and space. He directly pressed towards Zhuo Shuguang and Lin Wuqian. Chapter 1919. Buzz. The sky trembled, and a wave of light rushed toward Lin Wuqian and Zhuo Shuguang. Whoosh! Zhuo Shuguang's heaven and earth mountains and rivers went against the flow of light. 5,000 years of time reversed, and it smashed toward Xia Jiulong. Whoosh! Lin Wuqian's sword pierced through the clouds, and his sword moved in all directions. He attacked Xia Jiulong's wave of light together with the mountain and river diagram. Boom! Everyone was dumbfounded by the sight of two paragons fighting against a legendary existence. Even the 9 prefectures and mystic cultivators were watching. They wanted to see the power and techniques of experts at this level. Xia Jiulong seemed to be doing it normally. He opened the feather fan in his hand, and the world was illuminated by rainbow light. An even stronger wave of air rushed toward the two of them. Boom! 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 In an instant, the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. The rainbow light destroyed everything. It was as if the fury of thunder had shattered the mountains and rivers and shattered the sword light. Whoosh! Lin Wuqian and Zhuo Shuguang were as weak as children. Their bodies flew backward involuntarily. Their footsteps shattered the confinement of the void. Their faces were pale. How dare a firefly compete with the bright moon? You can't even withstand a single blow. Xia Jiulong waved the feather fan gently. His robe fluttered, and a strand of his black hair flew behind him. Lin Wuqian and Zhuo Shuguang's expressions changed. They knew that Xia Jiulong was strong, but they didn't expect him to be so strong that they couldn't even resist. Don't use the Green Lotus sword song outside, especially in front of Xia Jiulong. Otherwise, Xia Jiulong will definitely track me down. Lin Wuqian wanted to use his strongest sword move, but the Green Lotus Sword deity's words exploded in his mind. He had to suppress his fighting spirit. Sui Shuguang and Lin Wuqian looked at each other. Suddenly, the two of them flew away. One of them held the mountains and rivers, the other held the divine sword. Solitary sword Dao. Hum. Whoosh. Lin Wuqian transformed into a heavenly sword and attacked Xia Jiulong from the left. Mountains and rivers flow, dawn appears. Whoosh. The peak of the sky suddenly turned dark. It was as if the earth had fallen from the sky and suppressed the holy spirits. A ray of light tore through the darkness. It seemed like a place of life, but it was actually a place of death. Boom boom boom. If the two of them had joined forces, any other holy son would have been defeated. But at this moment, Xia Jiulong was at ease. He stood proudly in the sky and gently waved the feather fan in his hand. His body turned into a flash of lightning, moving between the stars. The feather fan in his hand was solid. He pointed it down and shook Lin Wuqian's sword qi. The feather fan touched the divine sword and directly shattered Lin Wuqian's sword. Bang! Xia Jiulong waved his hand, and the feather fan in his hand bounced back. It hit Lin Wuqian's right shoulder and sent him flying. Xia Jiulong's speed had reached its limit. The moment Lin Wuqian was sent flying, his figure rushed behind Sui Shuguang's body. Boom! Xia Jiulong waved his hand and pressed his palm against Sui Shuguang's back. Sui Shuguang's expression changed drastically. He did not expect Xia Jiulong's speed to be so fast. Xia Jiulong did not even give him a chance to use his strongest move. At this moment, he could only hurriedly turn around and charge at Xia Jiulong with the mountain river in his hand. Boom! Xia Jiulong's palm pierced through the mountain river. It was as if he had not used even 10% of his strength. His momentum was like a rainbow. It broke through Sui Shuguang's defense and smashed him to the ground. I can't kill Lin Wuqian, but killing a stage 1 individual cultivator like you is a piece of cake. Xia Jiulong's eyes flashed with killing intent. A short dagger appeared at the top of the feather fan. It emitted a cold light and turned into a bolt of lightning that pounced on Sui Shuguang. Sui Shuguang was shocked. Xia Jiulong was so fast that he did not have a chance to resist. Lin Wuqian had just fallen to the ground when he saw Xia Jiulong's fatal blow. Rainbow sword piercing sword. It was a sword move from the eternal tomb. The sword light turned into a long rainbow that pierced the sky and the void, shooting toward the end of the untainted land. The sword qi tore through all restrictions and directly attacked Xia Jiulong's arm. Xia Jiulong wanted to kill Sui Shuguang, but his arm would definitely be destroyed by Lin Wuqian. He was the dignified crown prince, known as the most powerful person in the world. How could he fight Lin Wuqian and Sui Shuguang, who were both juniors? Whoosh! Xia Jiulong used the 9 changes of stars as if he could borrow the power of the stars. His figure flashed and appeared thousands of meters away. Thump, thump, thump. Sui Shuguang's heart was beating wildly. Only now did he realize how big the gap was between him and Xia Jiulong. After all, Xia Jiulong was the most powerful person in the previous generation. He and Lin Wuqian were still juniors. Although their realms were slightly lower, their battle strength was 1,000 times weaker. Whoosh! Lin Wuqian quickly withdrew his sword and dragged Sui Shuguang back 3,000 steps. He looked at Xia Jiulong vigilantly and found that his eyes were full of doubts. Boy, where did you learn this sword move? Xia Jiulong asked coldly. I created it myself. Can't I? Lin Wuqian replied in a low voice. Xia Jiulong sneered and said disdainfully, your talent is not bad, but you are still 1,000 miles away from creating this move. Your Highness, you are looking down on me. Have you not created your own sword moves or other skills? Lin Wuqian frowned and asked. Xia Jiulong was confused, too. After all, Lin Wuqian's attack contained the Lone Sword Path, the Green Lotus Sword Path, and the Rainbow Sword Path. It had been modified so much that Xia Jiulong couldn't believe it was the Holy Kingdom's sword skill. But I really admire your highness' strength. The two of us think that we are the best among our peers, but in front of your highness, we are as vulnerable as children. Thank you, your highness, for your guidance. I will take my leave now. When the immortal elixirs are delivered, I hope your highness will not be stingy with your guidance. Lin Wuqian's attitude was humble. He was clearly telling Xia Jiulong that he was an elder and that he was a junior. If Xia Jiulong continued to pester him, it would be seen as bullying. After that, Lin Wuqian retreated with Sua Shuguang. At this moment, Feng Huang had already escaped thousands of miles away and was outside of Xia Jiulong's divine sense. Feng Huang did not dare to rest and kept speeding up. Xia Jiulong's eyes flashed with killing intent, but Lin Wuqian had made it so clear that he would lose face if he continued to chase. He could only watch the two juniors escape. Is it a coincidence? Yi Qinghan is now in the sky-reaching school and these two are obviously from the heaven-suppressing city. With the nursery rhyme spreading everywhere, Yi Qinghan must not be able to control such a huge situation to save Feng Huang from millions of miles away. Xia Jiulong mumbled to himself. He spread out his divine sense again and found that most of the people had retreated thousands of miles away, making it easier for him to search. But Feng Huang was not in this area. Humph. You can run away, but you can't run away. Feng Huang, if I want to kill you, you will not be able to escape death even if you run to the ends of the world. As for the insane sect, you have ruined my plans time and time again, you will not be able to escape death. Xia Jiulong snorted coldly and suppressed his anger. His figure flashed as he flew deeper into the Shixiang sacred ground. On one hand, he was looking for the eternal grave, and on the other hand, he was looking for Feng Huang. Chapter 1920. The Holy Land of Shixiang was mysterious and beautiful. It was located in a hilly area. Looking for someone here was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Although Lin Wuqian and Sua Shuguang did not receive Yi Qinghan's message, the nursery rhyme explained the problem. Except for a few people, no one else knew about the eternal tomb. Since Yi Qinghan had spread it, there must be a purpose. Therefore, after they came and disrupted Xia Jiulong's deployment, they quickly retreated without entangling with them. The gap between them was too big. Even if they joined forces, they were no match for Xia Jiulong. Xia Jiulong was the real number one person in the same realm. The world's understanding of him had improved a lot. In the crazy sect, Green Lotus Sword Immortal was hiding in Yi Qinghan's solitary courtyard. She was using the cauldron to refine elixirs from the Eternal Palace. However, she and the Green Lotus Celestial Herb were of the same origin. It was easy for her to refine the immortal spiritual power in her body, which would seriously affect her cultivation. Therefore, she could not refine it into an eternal immortal elixir. After several failures, Green Lotus Sword Immortal stopped torturing the Green Lotus Celestial Herb for fear that its medicinal properties would spread. She could only put it away. Knock, 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 there was a knock on the door. Jian Qinxue pushed the door open and entered. Seeing Green Lotus Sword Immortal sitting in the pavilion, she asked, "Sister Green Lotus, what's the problem?" Green Lotus Sword Immortal quite liked Jian Qinxue's character. She was quiet and sensible. She said truthfully, "Qinxue, I can't refine the eternal immortal elixir. Send someone to inform Yi Qinghan. I'm afraid other trustworthy eternal experts will help me refine it." This. Jian Qinxue hesitated. She was quite unwilling. After all, she had to give up an immortal elixir to ask an eternal expert for help. Now, the crazy sect only had one immortal elixir left. If she gave it to someone else, wouldn't it be like making a wedding dress for someone else? There's no other way. Although this Green Lotus Celestial Herb can't transform into a human, it does have the same origin as me and is one with my power. My power can't refine this immortal elixir, and it may waste my own life origin. Now, I can only ask someone to refine the immortal elixir, Green Lotus Sword Immortal said helplessly. Then I'll send someone to inform my husband and see if he has any other way. Jian Qinxue thought for a moment and stood up. Sister, take a rest first. No one will disturb you here and your identity will not be exposed. Don't worry. Green Lotus Sword Immortal nodded and said, go ahead. When you're done, come and chat with me. I'll also give you some guidance. Your talent is not bad. If you can really refine an immortal pill, I'm confident that I can promote you to the eternal realm. You may not be the strongest eternal sovereign, but you won't be the worst either. For Lin for it even if immortal. Him, for it. For. It, for it. It. Jian Qinxue left the courtyard and came to the main hall of Kuang's sect. She gathered 3 to 5 high-level members of Kuang's sect and told them what Green Lotus Sword Immortal said. Yan Ao and Huang Peng were old friends of Yi Qinghan, so they were naturally trustworthy. Lin Wutian hadn't returned yet, so Jiang Jingtian and Gu Qingyu stood on the side and pondered for a moment. They couldn't think of a better way. After all, only eternal immortal pills could be refined by eternal experts. If they were a little careless, the immortal pills would be wasted, and the immortal herbs would be wasted. They couldn't be careless. They could not afford to be careless. At this moment, 3 uninvited guests came to the gate of Kuang's sect. The guards quickly came to report, which surprised Jian Qinxue. Let them in, Jian Qinxue said immediately. The guards quickly left. Soon, 3 people came to the main hall. All of them were peerless beauties. Emperor Yi and Bai Xiaoxing's reincarnations were needless to say. The other one was Emperor Saintess of Oshi Holy Land, Yar Saint. Sister Huang, you 3 came at the right time. Jian Qinxue quickly pulled Emperor Yi inside. There's a little accident. We need someone to go to Sky-Reaching School to find my husband. What's the matter? Emperor Yi and the other 2 asked in unison. No one on our side can refine immortal elixirs. We need another immortal expert to help us. However, the 9 immortal elixirs have been completely allocated. Kuang's sect only has 1 immortal elixir. We can't give up any more profits. What should we do? Jian Qinxue said in a deep voice. Yar Saint frowned and suggested, how about escorting the immortal elixir to Oshi Holy Land and letting my great ancestor refine it? Miss Yar Saint, it's not that I don't trust you, but I can't trust Oshi Holy Land. Oshi Holy Land is remote. If they keep the immortal elixir, I'm afraid the Holy Land can't travel long distances to attack your Holy Land. Jian Qinxue firmly refused Yar Saint's proposal. Yar Saint smiled bitterly. Jian Qinshue's words were true. Once the immortal elixir was sent to Oshi Holy Land, the Holy Land could really keep it. Once the Holy Land got the 9 immortal elixirs, the Holy Land of Central Earth would no longer be a threat to Oshi Holy Land. My father is a divine alchemist. By Xiaoxing's reincarnation, Golden Body Wuxia quickly suggested. Your Holy Land didn't get a single immortal elixir. I'm afraid it's not appropriate to let him do it. Yan Ao shook his head and helplessly reminded them. Yar Saint naturally knew that the 9 immortal elixirs were allocated. He knew that Kuang's sect had no more immortal elixirs. Now, each party had 1 immortal elixir each, so it was impossible for them to give it out. The only one they could use was Yar Saint's immortal elixir. Give my immortal elixir to the Holy Land of Martial Dao, but the one who takes it must be Senior Wuqin. You are Wutian's wife. Consider it as a show of respect to you. Yar Saint knew how to conduct himself. First, he flattered Yi Qinghan's wives. Naturally, he would not let himself be wronged. Moreover, he had won the hearts of the people. Why not? Emperor Yi was naturally willing to accept this immortal elixir. It could also solve the crisis of this matter. However, this matter still had to be decided by Yi Qinghan. Shall the three of us go to the sky-reaching church? Emperor Yi proposed. Okay. It happens that your saint also has a mission from the Oshi Holy Land. He must go to the sky-reaching church. Your saint immediately nodded and agreed. Sister Huang, I'll have to trouble you. Jian Qinshua smiled. With Emperor Ye's intervention, she would be relieved of her worries. Sister Shui, you're the one who has worked hard. If you hadn't been behind us for so many years, my husband and I would have had a lot of trouble. Emperor Yi looked at Jian Qinshua and felt very grateful. Jian Qinshua held Emperor Ye's little hand and smiled. Sister, we're all family. Don't be so polite. Go ahead and refine the immortal elixir as soon as possible so that you can bring my husband back. I'm really worried about him being held hostage in the Holy Land. Emperor Yi nodded and quickly left with Wu Xing, and your saint. They rushed straight to the east. Less than 2 hours after the three of them left, Lin Wuqian and Zhou Shuguang ran back in embarrassment and just happened to pass by them. Zhou Shuguang returned to the main hall with a dispirited face. He did not expect the gap between him and Xia Jiulong to be so big. Lin Wuqian was the same. He did not expect that without using the Green Lotus Sword Song, he would be like a weak child in front of Xia Jiulong. In the end, he could not help but run to the courtyard of the Green Lotus Sword Song. Senior, Junior Lin Wuqian is here to visit. Lin Wuqian stood outside the door and said respectfully. Come in. A heavenly voice came from the courtyard. Lin Wuqian pushed the door and entered. When he found that Jian Qinshua was inside, he did not put on an act and directly sat on the ground. He said with grievance, Senior, you didn't let me use the Green Lotus Sword Song. Zhou Shuguang and I couldn't even withstand a single blow from Xia Jiulong. What should we do? Chapter 1921. Lin Wuqian complained sadly. After all, the gap between them was too big. It seemed that Xia Jiulong had hit him hard. Green Lotus Sword Fairy had fought with the Holy Empire countless times. She naturally knew how powerful the Holy Empire was. If she didn't use the Green Lotus Sword Song, she could only watch from afar. Moreover, Xia Jiulong was an expert that the Holy Empire had spent all their efforts to cultivate. He was definitely an invincible existence in the same realm. The Holy Empire's 9-star transformations is the fastest secret technique. If you fight with him, you won't even be able to touch him. How can you fight him? What's more, his astral spell has already reached the 28th level. Once he reaches the 36th level, he will be able to mobilize the astral power of the entire great world and even the entire universe. Even if I were to fight him personally, I might not be his match. Green Lotus Sword Immortal warned. Lin Wuqian asked helplessly, is this person really invincible? Green Lotus Sword Immortal shook his head and said in a low voice, I once battled with the Saint Lord of the Holy Empire. His star art was cultivated to the 34th level. Although he created the 36th level of the star art, the 35th and 36th levels belong to the legendary level. They can only be hoped for but not sought. Even he himself couldn't do it. I just don't know if he has made a breakthrough in these years. If he enters the 35th level, I might be able to beat him back then, but now, I'm not his opponent. Lin Wuqian sat on the ground dispiritedly. He didn't know what to do. He thought he was invincible, but the higher he stood, the further he looked. He realized that he was really too small. Green Lotus Sword Fairy glanced at Lin Wuqian and said lightly, if he doesn't reach the 36th layer, then he won't be invincible. You don't have to worry too much. As long as you can keep up with him, he can't do anything to you. Green Lotus Sword Fairy glanced at Lin Wuqian and said lightly. The 9-star transformations has a total of 12 layers. Although I haven't seen Xia Jiulong fight, I can roughly guess that he has reached the 9th layer. This is equivalent to the extreme speed of a middle-level expert. It's faster than many upper-level experts. Ordinary techniques can't compete with him. I have a speed-type technique that can compete with him. It's called Green Lotus Deity Step Seizing the Heavens. It's also a technique with 12 layers. As long as you can reach the 9th layer, your speed won't be slower than his. As for whether you can be faster or not, it depends on your talent. Green Lotus Sword Fairy said lightly. Lin Wuqian was ecstatic. Lin Wuqian. I was. Green Lotus Sword Fairy shook her head and sighed. I really owe you in this life. Your master knows about this technique. Back then, he and I. Green Lotus Sword Fairy's face turned slightly red. When they were in perfect harmony, Yi Qinghan peeked at part of her memories. At that time, in order to attract Yi Qinghan's attention, she didn't want to expose her secret. She especially shared this speed-type secret technique. It would be strange if Yi Qinghan didn't know about it. Swoosh! Green Lotus Sword Fairy gently raised her hand and pressed her jade finger on Lin Wuqian's forehead. A ray of immortal light bathed him. A powerful divine sense rushed into Lin Wuqian's sea of consciousness. Lin Wuqian didn't have the chance to resist. His soul was instantly suppressed, and a memory was forcibly instilled into his body. Practice Green Lotus Deity Step Seizing the Heavens with Green Lotus Sword Song. You'll get twice the result with half the effort. Green Lotus Sword Fairy waved her jade hand, indicating that Lin Wuqian could leave. At the same time, Yi Qinghan found out that Emperor Feng had escaped from the encirclement. He breathed a sigh of relief and settled down in the interception courtyard. After reading through all the ancient books in the library, he gained a rough understanding of the outside world. It turned out that there were many minor worlds attached to Eternal World. They were also known as minor regions. Each minor region was a large star system. Within each minor star system, there were many planets. Within each minor star system, there were several life-bearing planets. For example, the land of the 9 provinces was a minor region made up of countless life-bearing planets. Over the years, after countless explorations, a total of 12 major worlds were discovered. Although they were smaller than Eternal World, the experts within them were in no way inferior to the experts within Eternal World. However, back then, the Holy Emperor of the Holy Empire of the Middle Lands was incomparably powerful. He led over 10 disciples to war and had some eternal sovereigns under his command. Thus, all 12 major worlds were conquered. Great Shan World was one of them. Of the 12 major worlds, 10 of them were forcibly dragged to the vicinity of Eternal World by the Holy Emperor of the Holy Empire. Coincidentally, 6 of them were outside the Holy Empire. Due to that, the Holy Empire had no choice but to set those worlds up as pocket dimensions and allow people to explore them. However, every 10,000 years, the other Holy Lands would have to pay a huge amount of tribute to the Holy Empire. As for the other 2 major worlds, due to their compatibility, the Holy Empire placed their entrances within the Holy Empire's capital city. One of them was the Great Heaven Sealing Prison while the other was the Holy Empire's hiding place. No one knew where the specific entrances were. After understanding the situation, Yi Qinghan could not help but admire the might of the Holy Empire. Their true strength was definitely not what it appeared to be on the surface. The hiding place must have peerless experts who had yet to emerge. There might even be eternal sovereigns hiding there. No wonder the other Holy Lands are so tolerant of the Holy Empire. It turns out that the Holy Empire can really challenge the joint forces of half of Eternal World. If the Holy Lands of Europe had approached the Holy Empire, they would have been destroyed long ago, Yi Qinghan exclaimed. Hearing Yi Qinghan's words, the divine bird was shocked. It then said in a wretched manner, "Boss, we've offended Xia Jiulong. Why don't we go apologize to him? Hopefully, he won't hold a grudge against us." Yi Qinghan stared speechlessly at the divine bird. Then, he said angrily, "Scram. Let's not talk about this scene. You're not going to apologize to him. Even if I do you think someone like Xia Jiulong will forgive me? If he did, then the great heaven-sealing prison wouldn't be so overcrowded. There wouldn't be so many experts imprisoned here." The divine bird pondered for a moment before coming to a realization. That's true. Besides, Green Lotus Sword Immortal and the Holy Empire have a blood feud. She's also your woman. As a man, no matter how shameless you are, you can't rely on Xia Jiulong. Yi Qinghan was so angry that the corners of his mouth twitched. He said impatiently, "This is just one of the reasons. Do you still remember how I suppressed a little girl in the 9 provinces dragon cauldron? That girl called Xue Lin had a star chessboard in her hands. That was an eternal sacred artifact. As far as I know, she should be in the Star Great World. Her father should have been killed by the Holy Empire. That Xue Lin is no pushover. In the future, when the orphan of that great world comes to take revenge, we might have a chance to turn things around. Hee, fishing in troubled waters. That's what you're good at," the divine bird replied flatteringly. Yi Qinghan slapped him in the face. This little bastard's words were not pleasant to listen to. "I want to cultivate, but I lack some essential pills. Let's go exchange them with the sky-reaching school." Yi Qinghan shook his head. He threw down the book and walked out of the library. Chapter 1922. In the Jia courtyard of the sky-reaching cult, the young children were bitterly cultivating Taoist techniques and swordsmanship. However, most of them were low-level rookies. Even the divine bird could show off a little. Yi Qinghan walked on the path, humming an immortal song as he walked towards the Jia courtyard. Swish! A figure appeared in front of Yi Qinghan, almost face to face. The distance between their mouths was only half a finger. This scared Yi Qinghan so much that he took several steps back. "Oh, you scared me to death. I miscalculated the time and distance and almost gave away my first kiss. That would have been too easy for you, kid." A crisp voice was heard. The voice was particularly strange. Yi Qinghan raised his eyes and saw an unparalleled beauty dressed magnanimously. Her skin was creamy, her arms were like jade, and her eyebrows were as clear as the moon. Her teeth glowed with a white light, and her cherry lips were curled up. More than half of her long, slender legs were exposed, straight and seductive. Her slender waist was wrapped in a layer of transparent gauze. She was curvaceous and graceful, and above her willowy waist were 2 towering peaks that seemed ready to burst out at any moment. Gulp. Yi Qinghan swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He secretly regretted that he had just stepped back. If he had taken another step forward, wouldn't he have grabbed the peaks and bitten the beauty? The divine bird squatted on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and looked at the woman in front of him, giving a pertinent evaluation, top-quality girl. Yi Qinghan sniffed and found that this woman not only had an indescribable body fragrance, but also a strong aroma of strong liquor. He carefully looked at this woman and found that he had not seen her for a long time. "Kid, I wanted to scare you, but you almost took advantage of me. This lady has been cultivating in the Jia courtyard for so many years. Why have I never seen you? Are you new? Why don't you salute me when you see me?" The beautiful woman had a sloppy appearance, like a hooligan criticizing a beauty. She kept nodding and said, "Not bad, not bad. Your body is not bad, your face is not bad. You are more interesting than Mo and those boys. It's just that your cultivation is a bit lacking." Without waiting for Yi Qinghan to respond, the woman actually took the initiative to approach Yi Qinghan and reached out to touch his strong muscles. With a gentle press, Yi Qinghan hurriedly stepped back as if he had been electrocuted. However, the woman pretended to be shy. Her slender 5 fingers half covered her cherry lips, and said indecently, "Yo yo 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 yo, what a strong man. I want, Yi Qinghan's mouth, Yi Qinghan, Yi Qinghan, Yi Qinghan, Yi Qinghan said. At this moment, the Jia courtyard's disciple, Mo, rushed over from afar. Looking at the beautiful woman, he broke out in a cold sweat and said awkwardly, "Eldest senior sister, you've come out of seclusion. I didn't know. I hope senior sister can forgive me." "Yo, it's you. I haven't seen you in so many years. You've actually grown up. Let senior sister see if your body has become stronger." The beautiful woman was not embarrassed at all. She reached out to touch Mo's muscles. Mo was so frightened that he hurriedly took a few steps back. He waved his hand and said, "Eldest senior sister, don't tease junior brother. It's not good if others see. Hee, then I'll look for you tonight when no one sees us." The beautiful woman covered her mouth and laughed. Mo's expression changed greatly. He waved his hand and said, "Eldest senior sister, I'm going into seclusion tonight. You should look for other senior brothers." "Tisk, it's still that cowardly little guy." The eldest senior sister laughed arrogantly. She turned her attention to Yi Qinghan and said with interest, "Little Mo, which martial uncle's disciple is this guy?" He's not from the sky-reaching school. Senior sister, he's here as a guest. You must not mess around. Otherwise, I won't be able to explain it to master." Mo said with a wry smile. "Huh?" The eldest senior sister raised her head and stared at Mo. "Boy, what did you just say?" "I'm messing around." "Is this the attitude you should have when talking to your eldest senior sister?" Mo's cold sweat suddenly flowed into 2 lines. He nodded and bowed, and quickly apologized. It seemed that he was extremely afraid of this woman. Yi Qinghan was also curious. He could only see that this woman was at the middle level. He could not see the specific depth. However, he was sure that this woman was not to be trifled with. Otherwise, Mo, one of the 3 great godsons, would not be so afraid of her. Soon, the woman lost interest in Mo. She rolled her big eyes and stared at Yi Qinghan. She looked like she wanted to eat Yi Qinghan. She was almost drooling. "Little big brother, which sect are you from? How come I've never heard of it before?" the eldest senior sister asked curiously. Yi Qinghan did not want to be entangled with her. He immediately said, "I'm from a small sect. I'm not from a strong sect. This senior sister, I'll take my leave first." After saying that, Yi Qinghan hurriedly pulled Mo towards the main hall. The eldest senior sister looked at Yi Qinghan running away as if he was fleeing from a disaster. She stomped her foot and scolded him. She was quite feminine. Thump thump thump. Outside the main hall, Mo's heart was still beating wildly. It seemed that he was quite frightened. Yi Qinghan asked curiously, "Who is this eldest senior sister? You didn't participate in the trip to the Shrouding Heaven's secret realm and have never seen her. You seem to be very afraid of her." Mo wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said hoarsely, "This eldest senior sister is the chief disciple of the sky-reaching school. Her seniority is more than half of our godsons. The key is that her strength is much stronger than ours. As for her character, she is a maverick without any integrity. She is simply a weirdo at the peak of the sky-reaching school. You may not know her because you come from a small domain, but the holy sons and princes of the great world know her too well. Even Crown Prince Xia Jiolong is afraid of her. Don't speak ill of me. Stinking brat, I took good care of you in the past. How can you speak of your senior sister like that?" A flustered and exasperated roar shook Mo's internal organs. Thump. Mo was so scared that his legs went soft and he knelt on the ground with a bang. Cold sweat fell from his forehead like rain. He recalled the care of this eldest senior sister when he was a child. When Mo was very young, he was a disciple of the Jia school of the sky-reaching school. He could be regarded as a native of the sky-reaching school. This eldest senior sister was a little older, but she tore his clothes, tied a small rope to his deputy head, and took him to wander around the entire sky-reaching school. This was the shame of his life. The most terrible thing was that he didn't understand that at that time, the eldest senior sister even said that she was helping him practice martial arts. He was so grateful and smiled all the way. Mo's deeds had happened a long time ago. After all, he was very young at that time. Many people had forgotten about it. However, the memories of the three godsons were still fresh in their minds. They often used this matter to ridicule Mo. As a result, Mo's dignity was completely destroyed. Therefore, he rarely argued with others. In fact, the most unlucky person in the sky-reaching school was not Mo, but a martial uncle. Because his Taoist heart was unstable, he was seduced by the eldest senior sister's illusion. As a result, he performed the great magical skill of taking off his clothes outside the main hall. In the end, he magnanimously showed his body to everyone. Since then, that martial uncle had never appeared in the sky-reaching school again. It was said that he had left in the name of traveling and doing good deeds. He had never come back. Yi Qinghan looked at Mo's miserable face and couldn't help but feel somewhat unconvinced. Such a beauty was born to be molested by men. How could any man be molested by her and not dare to utter a word? Chapter 1923. Mo was scared silly by eldest senior sister. Once he was remembered by eldest senior sister, his life would be over. As a holy son, she could also make him not dare to stay in the Holy Land anymore. He might even willingly give up the title of Holy Son and flee. Don't be angry, eldest senior sister. I didn't mean it. I just wanted to establish your dignity and let this ignorant boy know your dignity so that he won't dare to offend you. Mo hurriedly explained. The eldest senior sister frowned and asked, "Oh. I didn't dote on you in vain. Get up quickly. If others see this, they will think that I bullied you again. Otherwise, your master will always find trouble with me." When Mo heard this, he felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. He didn't even care about Yi Qinghan as he crawled to his feet and ran into the main hall. Boom! The door of the hall was instantly sealed. The strong wind blew Yi Qinghan's long hair. The two looked at each other. Yi Qinghan looked at the eldest senior sister's unfriendly eyes and immediately took a step back. He said vigilantly, "Senior sister, you're not thinking of bullying me with your cultivation, are you?" The eldest senior sister immediately roared, "Do you think I'm that kind of person? You're insulting me. People who insult me don't dare to stay in the sky-reaching school. Today, I'm bullying you with my cultivation. What can you do to me?" Yi Qinghan was speechless. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Seeing the eldest senior sister's imposing manner, the divine bird immediately fled. It didn't even dare to say a word. Seeing that the eldest senior sister was unwilling to forgive him, Yi Qinghan no longer gave her face. His face darkened. He took a step back and said in a deep voice, "I'm not your junior brother of the sky-reaching school. I'm a guest." Whoosh. The eldest senior sister didn't allow Yi Qinghan to speak. She waved her jade-like hand and scattered a seven-colored fog, which directly enveloped Yi Qinghan. "Come into my world." A clear and melodious voice poured into Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness. The world in Yi Qinghan's eyes changed. This place was no longer the interception courtyard of the transcending heaven cult. It was clearly a quiet and beautiful fairyland. A small stream ran through the east and west. It was so clear that one could see the bottom. Several small fish were swimming against the current. Yi Qinghan actually saw Emperor Yi from his previous life. He was carrying the Renhuang zither and walking barefoot on a small stream. His clothes were wet and half-covered, giving him a unique feeling. Yi Qinghan was shocked. His willpower was extremely strong. Even though he was trapped in an illusion, he quickly understood his situation. Emperor Ye's past life had already been destroyed. This life had already been formed. The clouds and smoke had already passed. There was no need to cling on. However, there was nothing Yi Qinghan could do to break free from the illusions. All he could do was wait for an opportunity. Buzz. Emperor Yi played the zither. The pleasant sounds of nature pulled Yi Qinghan's soul deeper and deeper. The grand senior sister looked at Yi Qinghan. Her eyes had lost their luster. Her lips curled into a lascivious smile. She pressed 2 fingers on her forehead and sent her spiritual energy into Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness, stirring up his memories. Their spiritual energies were like a vast ocean and a small stream. In front of the grand senior sister, Yi Qinghan, especially his spiritual energy, was as weak as a mortal. Yi Qinghan did not dare to move. He could only follow the guidance of the grand senior sister's spiritual energy. It was as if he was really trapped in an illusion. Come, take off your clothes. The grand senior sister smiled evilly. Yi Qinghan subconsciously unbuttoned his shirt. His eyes revealed a touch of obsession. Mo, who was hiding in the hall, wanted to stop them. However, he did not dare to ruin the grand senior sister's good deed. He wanted to open the door several times but did not do so. His courage was like a weak child in front of the grand senior sister. It was like a mouse in front of a cat. Come, let's go to the square of the sky-reaching school. It's interesting there. The grand senior sister grinned evilly and led Yi Qinghan to the training field of the sky-reaching school. Mo watched them leave and knew that things were serious. He hurriedly said to a young disciple beside him, "Why are you still standing here? Go and inform the master." When the young disciple heard this, he knelt on the ground with a bang and said in horror, "Don't do this to me, grand senior brother. If the grand senior sister knows that I informed the dean, she can't kill me." Mo had no choice but to quietly chase after them, hoping to wake Yi Qinghan up at the critical moment. Otherwise, Yi Qinghan's reputation would be completely ruined. If the arrogant sect flew into a rage out of humiliation and stopped giving out immortal pills, it would be a great loss. He. The chirping of birds and the fragrance of flowers spread in the mountains. Crisp laughter spread in all directions. Many people saw the grand senior sister leading Yi Qinghan to the training field and knew that there would be a good show today. They all chased after them and looked at the two from afar. Ha, I heard that this Yi Qinghan is very powerful. I didn't expect him to be so weak in front of the grand senior sister. Of course, our grand senior sister is a true disciple of the main sect. She is a first-class figure on the same level as the crown prince of the Holy Empire. Wouldn't it be easy for her to deal with a puny Yi Qinghan? Several young disciples discussed. What a pity. Such a handsome guy was played by the grand senior sister. How can he face others in the future? Several infatuated young girls sighed. However, they did not dare to offend the grand senior sister. They could only watch the man they admired being played by the grand senior sister. At this moment, Yi Qinghan could not hear the sounds of the outside world. Or rather, the sounds of the outside world had all transformed into the sound of the zither and the chirping of birds. Meanwhile, the grand senior sister was like Emperor Yi, dancing gracefully as she led Yi Qinghan forward. The divine bird was hiding at the side. It wanted to wake Yi Qinghan up, but the grand senior sister glared at it fiercely. It could only cower its head and submit. Husband, take off your clothes. Let me serve you. In the illusion, Emperor Yi spoke softly. His voice was like the sound of nature, like an oriole flying out of the valley. Hearing this, Yi Qinghan's fingertips moved slightly. It was as if he could feel the world outside the illusion and was about to break free. Husband, come on, another crisp voice rang out. It was filled with a strong sense of temptation that made one unable to resist. However, at this moment, Yi Qinghan finally broke through the illusion and heard the voice. Boom! Yi Qinghan took off half of his shirt. Suddenly, he lifted his long leg and swept it across. Boom! Whoosh! His long leg was halfway through the metal rod. It cut through the void and headed straight for the Grand Senior Sister. The Grand Senior Sister was confident that Yi Qinghan could not break through the illusion. At this moment, she was looking around triumphantly, as if she was showing off and warning the group of young disciples. By the time she realized that Yi Qinghan had broken free of the illusion, his long leg was already in front of her. Ouch! Bang! Thud thud thud, the Grand Senior Sister gently pressed her lily-white hand on Yi Qinghan's instep and used the force to pull back. Yi Qinghan's boundless strength was instantly dispersed by her. With a casual flick of her hand, she sent Yi Qinghan flying. Ouch, you scared me to death. You actually dared to kick a beautiful girl. What a stinky man. The Grand Senior Sister's lily-white hand lightly patted her breasts. She looked so delicate and pitiful that even the heavens would pity her. Yi Qinghan was forced back dozens of steps before he managed to stabilize himself. He couldn't help but be shocked. He hadn't expected his peak attack to be so easily neutralized. Instead, he had to bear the brunt of the impact. If he hadn't reacted quickly enough, he would have been rolling on the ground. Humph! Yi Qinghan coldly snorted. The veins on his arms bulged. He gently moved in a semicircle and got into an attacking posture. He said coldly, "Woman, you are so rude. How dare you sneak attack me?" Chapter 1924. Yi Qinghan was furious. This woman was truly a weirdo. She actually took pleasure in humiliating men. Most importantly, her strength was terrifying. Yo yo yo, you're so manly and bold. You're much more fun than those junior brothers. You actually dared to attack me. Grand Senior Sister covered her cherry lips with her slender fingers. No matter how one looked at her, she did not look like a delicate girl. She was clearly a slut. Yi Qinghan's mind flashed back to the way eldest Senior Sister had neutralized his powerful attack. She had done it so casually, like a fish playing with a lotus leaf. Her technique had reached the point of perfection. Not only had she neutralized his strength, she had even returned it to him. Even now, his thighs were still aching. I'm no match for her. This guy is on the same level as Xia Jiulong. They're both legendary existences. Yi Qinghan thought to himself. He did not want to get entangled with her. As the saying goes, a wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. He cupped his fists and said, "Junior brother was presumptuous just now. I didn't know my limits and attacked Senior Sister. I hope Senior Sister won't hold it against me. Hey, don't apologize. I won't accept it anyway. Since you attacked me, then accompany me in a good fight. It's been many years since I've had someone to exercise my muscles with." Grand Senior Sister interrupted Yi Qinghan and said carelessly, "If you can force me back a step, then you win. This Senior Sister will give you her first kiss. If you can't win, it's inevitable that I'll suffer some physical pain." Yi Qinghan's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Although he was confident that his cultivation was definitely on par with a middle-level cultivator and would not lose to a holy son like Mo, he did not have the slightest idea of winning against this Grand Senior Sister. Just based on the casual attack she had used just now, he could conclude that he would not be able to beat her in half a move. Mo, who was hiding at the side, quickly shook his head, indicating that Yi Qinghan should not agree. The three godsons had been dealt with in this way. All of them wanted to beat Grand Senior Sister in half a move. Not to mention that first kiss, that glory was definitely one of a kind. Unfortunately, the three godsons were like mice that had seen a cat when they saw her. "Senior Sister, I'm at the lower level." Yi Qinghan saw Mo's reminder and really did not want to fight, so he found an excuse that did not really count as an excuse. However, the grand senior sister was full of arrogance as she said disdainfully, "When this senior sister fights, I've never used my cultivation to bully others. I'll suppress my cultivation to the lower level to fight you." When Yi Qinghan heard this, his confidence was immediately boosted. He had never lost to anyone of the same level. Good. Since senior apprentice sister is so confident, then this little brother will respectfully accept. Yi Qinghan put his palms together and fiercely pressed them together, his knuckles cracking. Pa! Mo slapped his forehead hard, as if he could see Yi Qinghan's miserable state. He couldn't bear to look at it. Humph! Yi Qinghan groaned and said, "If I don't teach you a lesson today, you won't know why the flowers are so red." The first senior sister was beaming with joy. Her silhouette flickered and she appeared on the training field. Her cultivation had been suppressed to the middle stage of the lower plane, even lower than the peak stage of the lower plane. It seemed that she was so confident in her cultivation that she was invincible. Whoosh! The first senior sister tiptoed half a step and drew a semicircle in front of her chest with her hands. The image of the 8 trigrams of yin and yang appeared in her palms. Then she said, "Little guy, don't say that I didn't give you a chance to make a move. Make your move first." Whoosh! The disciples of the sky-reaching cult were suddenly in an uproar. They were discussing spiritedly. Some people even bet on whether Yi Qinghan could defeat the first senior sister. However, there were also many people who looked at Yi Qinghan sympathetically. Yi Qinghan was a little angry. If they were at the same level and his cultivation was higher than this woman's, he would have lived his life in vain if he couldn't defeat her. "Thank you for letting me win," Yi Qinghan roared. He stomped his feet and a wave of qi soared into the sky. He turned into a flood dragon with flames in the sky and punched the first senior sister's face. Taiji yin and yang come out, the great Tao of heaven and earth open. The first senior sister whispered. Instead of retreating, she moved forward quickly. She was using the secret method, shadowless cloud, which was on par with the 9 changes of stars. No one could see her position and movement clearly, but a stream of qi moved Yi Qinghan's body. Bang! Yi Qinghan's iron fist appeared in front of the first senior sister. She put her left hand on Yi Qinghan's right wrist and held Yi Qinghan's fist with her right hand. She took half a step back with her right foot and moved her body's center of gravity backward. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's punch, which contained millions of pounds of strength, hit the air as if he had hit the center of the sea. It seemed to be majestic and turbulent, but it didn't have any effect on the first senior sister. At the moment when the two collided, the first senior sister pulled Yi Qinghan's arm back and threw Yi Qinghan away with his momentum. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan instantly lost control of his center of gravity. His expression changed, and he had nowhere to release his strength. He almost suffered internal injuries from holding it in. His handsome face slammed into the stone floor. Damn! Yi Qinghan yelled and struck the ground with his left hand. However, the force of the impact was too strong. It contained a portion of eldest senior sister's strength as well as his own. With the two combined, the force of the impact was more than 10 times stronger than his own. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan fell to the ground and rolled more than 10 times before he could get rid of the impact. He stood up in a panic and said in disbelief, the great Tao is simple. Yin and Yang are boundless. Tai Chi manifests the 8 trigrams. Its power can reach the heavens. The first senior sister used the shadowless cloud movement technique. She was as fast as lightning and her hands kept crossing. As soon as she finished speaking, she was already in front of Yi Qinghan. This was a technique from the Taiji Immortal Codex. It was the strongest secret technique of the sky-reaching school. When cultivated to the highest level, it could be compared to the immortal immortals of the 9 heavens. It was a truly invincible technique. However, no one had reached that level yet. Yi Qinghan didn't even have the time to be shocked when he saw the first senior sister dashing over. He immediately executed the heavenly dragon silk binding hand, wanting to fight her at close range. Although this technique wasn't as profound as the Taiji Immortal Codex, it had some similarities. However, Yi Qinghan underestimated the Taiji Immortal Codex. As soon as he got close, the first senior sister's arm landed on his shoulder. He had only used half of his strength when he was flung away. A majestic force rushed into his organs and sealed 80% of his divine power. Whoosh! A moment later, Yi Qinghan was flung away for the second time. Bang bang bang. This time, Yi Qinghan's face hit the ground. The floor was protected by a forbidden technique. Even if the first senior sister attacked with all her strength, she wouldn't be able to break it, let alone Yi Qinghan. When he hit the floor, it was as if his face had been slapped by an eternal sacred weapon. The pain caused tears to flow uncontrollably. Yi Qinghan touched his face. Tears mixed with blood. His mind was muddled. He felt that there was something mysterious in front of him, but he couldn't grasp it no matter how hard he tried. Again. Yi Qinghan roared. His long legs stomped on the ground. Like the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves, his staff flashed and smashed toward the first senior sister. Just in time. The first senior sister rushed forward. She leaned slightly to the left and placed her left hand on Yi Qinghan's ankle. Her right hand caught Yi Qinghan's right hand. She spun around and threw Yi Qinghan into the air. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan was confused from the fall. His mind was muddled. He never thought that he would lose in a physical battle, much less to a woman. And he lost so badly. Kneel down and beg for mercy. Be my follower, and I'll spare you. The first senior sister smiled lasciviously. She was also a legendary expert. Naturally, she knew Yi Qinghan's strength. If she hadn't used the Taiji Immortal Codex and shadowless cloud manipulation, it would have been impossible for her to win against Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth and sucked in a breath of cold air. He felt that his waist was about to be broken by this woman. But begging for mercy was impossible. Moreover, he felt that there was something mysterious in front of him. As long as he continued fighting, he would understand it sooner or later. Chapter 1925. Mo was already covering his eyes. He did not want to see Yi Qinghan being tortured. After being thrown around for so many years, he knew how torturous it was. If he sparred with Grand Senior Sister, he would lose half his life at the very least. The divine bird saw that its master was being bullied by this woman in a physical battle and was instantly displeased. Seeing that Yi Qinghan was unable to stand up despite several attempts, it shouted, "Get up! Beat her up!" Grand Senior Sister rubbed her small fists and turned to look at the divine bird beside Mo, who was standing on a tree and shouting. She immediately let out a muffled groan. The divine bird was so frightened that it trembled. It quickly shrank back and said, "Don't misunderstand, pretty lady. I asked you to beat him up, not for him to beat you up. He doesn't have the ability, ha ha ha." Everyone laughed. Even Grand Senior Sister laughed. Her smile was so beautiful that it caused the sky to change color. Mo rubbed his forehead and said hoarsely, "Oh my God, you'd better shut up. Don't drag me into this." Humph. After a cold snort, Yi Qinghan crawled up from the ground. His face was resolute and his battle intent was strong. He clenched his fists and his entire body emitted a fiery aura. Again. Yi Qinghan moved at the fastest speed possible. His fist tore through the void and swept out in all directions with a force that could tear all things apart. He went straight for Grand Senior Sister. It looked like a powerful attack, but Grand Senior Sister casually guided it and turned all of Yi Qinghan's power into yin and yang. A huge ball of flame appeared in front of her chest. It grew bigger and bigger, and the power contained within it grew stronger and stronger. In the blink of an eye, Grand Senior Sister completed it in half a breath's time. With a backhand push, she returned Yi Qinghan's power tenfold. Boom! The two balls of flame collided, and their aura soared into the Milky Way. Crack! The crisp sound of bones breaking was especially ear-piercing. It caused the powerhouses around to feel numb and their brows to furrow. Bam bam bam! Humph! Yi Qinghan retreated dozens of steps and let out a muffled groan. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper. A ray of light flashed in his sea of consciousness, but it was gone in a flash. He still couldn't grasp the profoundness of the Taiji immortal scripture. After all, it was an immortal scripture. In theory, it could surpass eternity. Even the three godsons had to study it for countless years and had only cultivated half of it until now. They hadn't even grasped the essence. It would be wishful thinking if Yi Qinghan could comprehend it with just a few moves. Although he had lost, Yi Qinghan was not discouraged in the slightest. The bones in his right hand were fractured and blood dripped from his fingers onto the stone floor. His clothes were disheveled and he looked like a beggar. Boring. His strength is passable, and he's 30% stronger than those three kids at the same level. Alas, it's hard to find a match in this world. Grand Senior Sister shook her head, and she looked like she was lonely on the peak of a mountain and was seeking defeat alone. A trace of sweat appeared on Yi Qinghan's forehead. This was the first time in his life that he had lost to someone of the same cultivation level. Moreover, he had lost in such a humiliating manner that he didn't even have a chance to retort. Crack crack. Yi Qinghan held his right hand with his left hand and moved it slightly. The dislocated bones were connected, but they couldn't withstand the powerful impact. He needed at least 3 to 5 days of rest. Senior Sister's strength is indeed unrivaled among the same cultivation level. Junior brother accepts his defeat wholeheartedly. Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and said. Grand Senior Sister covered her mouth and smiled shyly. She seemed to have changed into another person. Then, she said gently, Little brother, which powerful sect are you from? How come I've never seen you before? I'm just a nobody, and my sect is just a small one. It's normal that Senior Sister doesn't know me. Yi Qinghan replied. Grand Senior Sister raised her eyebrows in disbelief. She looked at Mo and asked, Since you're from a small sect, why are you in my sky-reaching school? Yi Qinghan didn't know how to answer. At this moment, Mo bowed and walked over with a flattering smile. Senior Sister, you don't know. This guy and his crazy sect participated in the Shrouding Sky secret realm and obtained the Flying Immortal Elixir. He promised the 6 great holy lands, the Holy Empire, and Zhuguang a share of the elixir. However, the elixir hasn't been refined yet, so he's here as a hostage. Grand Senior Sister's eyes widened. She was ecstatic and rubbed her hands together as if she was thinking of a bad idea. Yo, little brother, why didn't you tell me earlier? I almost neglected my guest. Grand Senior Sister's tone towards Yi Qinghan took a 180-degree turn. She then glared at Yi Qinghan angrily and said coldly, Little bastard, you didn't tell me about such an important guest in advance. Tell me, how should I punish you? Mo's expression changed and he hurriedly explained, Grand Senior Sister, this has nothing to do with me. You didn't give me a chance to explain, you still dare to quibble. Grand Senior Sister said angrily. Mo didn't dare to say anything else and could only let Grand Senior Sister reprimand him. However, Grand Senior Sister was just pretending to reprimand Mo. Her real target was naturally Yi Qinghan. Little brother, what's your name? Are you married? How many people are there in your family? Grand Senior Sister asked flatteringly. Sure enough, this Grand Senior Sister had no integrity at all. She was a weirdo in the sky-reaching school. Yi Qinghan saw the light in Grand Senior Sister's eyes and knew that she was up to no good. He hurriedly wanted to leave. Senior sister, I already have a wife. Senior sister, you should get busy first. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. Grand senior sister flashed and directly grabbed Yi Qinghan's arm. She radiated charm and said, coquettishly, Junior brother, do you dislike me? When everyone saw grand senior sister acting coquettishly, they couldn't help but tremble and get goosebumps. Especially Mo, who turned around and ran away. When everyone saw Mo run away, they swarmed out of the training field, leaving only Yi Qinghan and grand senior sister. Yi Qinghan now understood grand senior sister's power. He didn't dare to tangle with her. Now that he was sure that she had her eyes on the immortal pill, it was even more impossible. Senior sister, pay attention to your image. Yi Qinghan struggled several times but couldn't break free from grand senior sister's grip. She was like a sticky candy clinging to him. Image? What's image? Grand senior sister asked. Yi Qinghan, little brother, let's make a bet. I'll lower my cultivation to the early stage of the lower stage, and you'll be at the peak of the lower stage. If you can beat me, I'll be yours. You can do whatever you want with me. If you lose, you have to give me an immortal pill. How about it? Grand senior sister asked expectantly. Sure enough, she revealed her fox tail. Although Yi Qinghan was very confident in his cultivation, he didn't have any confidence in facing Xia Jiulong and this grand senior sister. People like them had top-notch cultivation methods and occult mysteries. How could he compare with them when they had comprehended the great Tao of heaven? No. I know that I'm no match for them. I hope that senior sister will let me go. I don't have any more immortal pills. Yi Qinghan said truthfully. Junior brother, do you think that I'm not good enough for you? Grand senior sister pretended to be delicate and pitiful. Yi Qinghan shuddered all over. If he could beat this woman, he would have already slapped her. But now, he couldn't break free. The three deans of the sky-reaching school were like dead people. Could it be that they wanted to borrow the first senior sister's hand to seize the immortal elixir of the crazy sect? At this time, Mo suddenly turned back, bowed and said, Grand senior sister, the two saintesses of the Martial Supreme Holy Land and the saintess of the Oshi Holy Land have come to visit. They said that they were looking for the three deans, but the three elders are nowhere to be seen. Please go and receive them. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed when he heard this. These three people were on his side. Chapter 1926. The grand senior sister glared at Mo and scolded, What bullshit saintess? What does it have to do with me? Are you a dead man? As a godson, don't tell me you can't even take care of a few girls. Mo felt wronged and said truthfully, these three saintesses are not ordinary. Two of them are the daughters of the Martial Tao Supreme, Lord Eternal, and the other is the imperial saintess of the Oshi Sacred Ground. In terms of seniority, only you and the dean are qualified to receive them. The grand senior sister raised her eyebrows and asked, when did that old man of the Wu family have two daughters? How come I didn't know? How long have you been in seclusion? Yi Qinghan frowned and looked at the grand senior sister. This woman was too strange and could not be treated like an ordinary person. It was not good to be too polite to her, but if he was disrespectful, he would suffer. Cough cough. I didn't pay attention to the time when I was comprehending the Immortal Codex. I'm afraid I haven't come out for a while, and it's meaningless to come out. All of them are trash and none of them are worthy of my attention. The only one worthy of my attention is Xia Jiulong. That grandson ran away when he saw me and ignored me. Is he really afraid I'll marry his father? The grand senior sister sighed and shook her head with a lonely expression. Mo Jiulong smiled bitterly. This eldest senior sister was the type of person who would avoid anyone who saw her. Last time, she had a little conflict with Xia Jiulong, and the key was that she had not won. She had bluntly threatened Xia Jiulong that if he did not apologize, she would marry Xia Jiulong's biological father and make him call her mother. Xia Jiulong had been so scared that he apologized profusely. From then on, he would run away whenever he saw her. Forget it, forget it. I don't know where those 3 old men went. I'll go entertain these 3 girls. The grand senior sister was bored and took the initiative to step out of the sky-reaching school. Yi Qinghan and Nemo followed closely behind. Along the way, the disciples ran away when they saw the grand senior sister. Some chose to jump off the mountain when they were a few hundred meters away. The grand senior sister did not care at all and did not reflect on her behavior. Instead, she carried on her shameless spirit and walked proudly to the gate. At the mountain gate, the 3 beauties waited silently. Wuxia was a little anxious. After all, she was still too young and had yet to recover her memories. Her temperament was far inferior to Ren Huangye's and Yer Saint's. Why is the sky-reaching church so rude? Why hasn't the dean come out yet? Wuxia said angrily. Emperor Yi had already recovered his memories. Having lived 2 lives, he naturally understood the ways of the world. He comforted her, "Sister, don't worry. Perhaps the 3 senior brothers were delayed by something." Whoosh! At this moment, a beautiful scene appeared at the mountain gate. The beauty was as beautiful as a painting, with skin as white as snow. She looked so delicate that it seemed as if she had no bones in her body. The eldest senior sister appeared before the 3 of them with Yi Qinghan and Ning in tow. Yarsheng glanced at Yi Qinghan but did not greet him. Instead, he bowed to the eldest senior sister and said, "Oshi Holy Lands Yarsheng greets senior sister Fan Yin." It turned out that the eldest senior sister's name was Fan Yin. She was as beautiful as her name suggested, but her wretched and unprincipled character was a disgrace to her name. Fan Yin's eyes lit up as she looked at the 3 beauties. She then rushed over like 2 perverts. "Tisk, tsk, tsk. What a beauty. You have breasts and legs. Tsk, tsk. What a small waist. Oh, your breasts are almost as big as mine. Your skin is so soft. It must feel good to touch." Fan Yin circled around the 3 of them and reached out to touch Yarsheng's big breasts. Her hand almost reached into his clothes. She was so fast that Yarsheng did not have time to react. Yarsheng's face was flushed red. Before he could say anything, Fan Yin's senior sister had already rushed to Ren Huangyi and Wuxia side. She wrapped her slender arms around them and pulled them into her embrace. Ren Huangyi and Wuxia were unable to resist her touch. They wished they had more claws to grab this damned woman's hands. Not bad. As expected of the first generation of the Eternal Sovereign. Tsk, tsk. Your bloodline and body are perfect. It would be great if I could hug you to sleep every day. Fan Yin looked as if she wanted to swallow the 3 of them. She was even more foppish than a playboy. Yi Qinghan and Ink covered their foreheads. They really did not know what to say. How was Fan Yin like a woman? Swish! Fan Yin's figure flashed. She pulled the 3 beauties together and asked with a drooling face, "Little junior sisters, are you married? Do you have a sweetheart?" Emperor Yi and Wuxia did not know that there was such a weirdo in the sky-reaching school. They did not know how to deal with her. Yarsheng knew and quickly explained, "This Fan Yin is the true disciple of the supreme leader of the sky-reaching school. In terms of seniority, she is of the same generation as us and the 3 deans. However, she is the chief disciple of the sky-reaching school, so the younger generation of the sky-reaching school disciples call her senior sister. You too can call her senior sister." Emperor Yi smiled awkwardly and whispered, "Why does this senior sister look like a pervert?" Yi Qinghan was also a bit suspicious. He looked at Mo and secretly sent a voice transmission, "Could this eldest senior sister be a lesbian?" Ink did not dare to explain and could only shake his head. Clap. Clap. Senior sister Fanine clapped her hands and pulled the three beauties over. It doesn't matter if you have a sweetheart or not, this senior sister will treat you well. Come, 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 follow me into the sect. Let me treat you well. Senior sister Fanine, these two twins are my wives. Saintess Yar also has a sweetheart. Senior sister, if you like women, I can introduce a few to you, Yi Qinghan quickly said. Fanine curled her lips and looked at Yi Qinghan with a face full of doubt. She said disdainfully, you dare to steal my women? They are high and mighty saintesses and twins. If you want to have fun with them, you should see if you have 2 dragon roots. Fuck. Senior sister, where is your integrity? Yi Qinghan was speechless. Even if I don't have 2 dragon roots, I am still better than you. You don't even have one. At least I have one. Bang! Fanine raised her leg and kicked Yi Qinghan's crotch. If this kick connected, his dragon root would basically be crippled. Fuck your sister, Yi Qinghan covered his crotch with both hands, but Fanine suddenly changed her move. The tip of her foot moved up and kicked directly at his chest. Whoosh! Boom. Yi Qinghan's body was like a kite with a broken string. He slammed into a stone pillar at the gate and fell flat on his face. You dare to expose my shortcomings. You dare to talk back. If this senior sister does not teach you a lesson today, you will not know your place. She let go of Emperor Ye's hand and stepped towards Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's face was hideous. It was not because he was angry, but because the kick had changed the shape of his facial muscles. Wait, he really is our husband. Senior sister Fanine, please show mercy. Emperor Yi quickly explained. Chapter 1927. Emperor Ye's words shocked Fanine and Nemo. How could Yi Qinghan conquer 2 of the best saintesses of the Holy Land? They were beautiful sisters. Many men dreamed of having only one, but he had conquered both of them. Yi Qinghan brushed the dust off his chest and looked at Fanine triumphantly. He didn't seem to mind being beaten by her at all. It was normal to be defeated in this day and age. She was a legendary figure, the true disciple of Lord Eternal. It would be abnormal if he won. Fanine looked at Yi Qinghan with disdain, then looked at the 2 little beauties and earnestly advised, little girls, the 2 of you are still young. For someone like him to marry one of you, he'd be lucky to have smoke rising from his ancestors' graves. How could you let him take advantage of you? Wait until I teach you a lesson. Then you'll know that men are purely for carrying on the family line, while women are for true love. Yi Qinghan's expression changed slightly. He did not expect this woman to be so abnormal. She actually liked both men and women. However, Emperor Yi did not need to worry about her. She was already dead set on Yi Qinghan. However, Wuxia had not recovered her memory. She said mischievously, Senior sister Fanine, I am not his woman. I can play with you when I have time. That's good. Your little sister does not understand. She will regret it in the future. You can play with men, but you can't take them seriously. Fanine said frankly. At this moment, Mo had already lowered her head. The sky-reaching school had produced such a weirdo. As long as one's worldview was correct, they would feel ashamed to be associated with her. Soon, Fanine led the 3 beauties into the sky-reaching school's interception courtyard. Emperor Yi pulled Yi Qinghan aside and said in a low voice, Husband, Sister Qinxue said that the person you found could not refine the elixir. You need to find someone else to refine it. I recommended my father. Yar Sheng is willing to give up her elixir and ask my father to refine it. Now, we are just waiting for you to agree. Yi Qinghan frowned. He did not expect that the Green Lotus Sword Fairy could not refine immortal pills. However, after thinking about it carefully, He guessed that it might be because the Green Lotus Sword Fairy and the Green Lotus Immortal Medicine were of the same origin. To be honest, I've never met your father in this life. Do you think I can trust you? Yi Qinghan asked. Emperor Yi was very confident in Wu Xinjuan. He patted his chest and said, "My father will definitely be fine. I was lucky to have you in my previous life. In this life, my father has been very good to me and sister Sheng Er. He will not be greedy for the immortal elixir of the Guangzong." Yi Qinghan smiled and patted Emperor Ye's head. He said, "Since my son is so confident, I will believe you. Go back and inform Wu Tian. Ask him and Zhou Shuguang to protect you and bring the immortal elixir to your home. Ask him to stall for time and not rush to refine the immortal elixir. As long as the immortal elixir is not successfully refined, the Guangzong will be the safest." Emperor Yi nodded and suggested, "Husband, let's move the Guangzong to my family's holy land. Although most of the land there is snow, there are many places suitable for human survival." Yi Qinghan shook his head and said with a sigh, "Let's not move there for the time being. We'll talk about it later. The Guangzong does not have an eternal sovereign of its own. It will always be treated badly by others. Your father will never allow you to have an affair and disrupt his plans." Emperor Yi was also very helpless. No matter when and where, it was important to pay attention to matching social status. If the Guangzong wanted to marry the two sisters, it would have to have its own strength or the entire Guangzong would be incorporated into the Holy Land. The latter was absolutely impossible. Now, they could only strengthen the Guangzong first. "By the way, do you have the origin of wind in your hands? I want to create a pair of boots that can increase my speed. If I want to defeat legendary experts like Fan Yin and Xia Jiulong, speed is absolutely necessary," Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Emperor Yi replied, "The origin of wind crystal is more commonly seen in the snow. I have some high-level ones, but I don't have any middle-level ones." Yi Qinghan smiled slightly and said confidently, "I can even refine an upper-level one." Emperor Yi took out a transparent crystal. This was a crystal formed by the condensation of the origin of wind. It contained high-level profound mysteries of wind and could tear everything apart. It was the best item to increase one's speed. This material happened to be produced in the Holy Land of Martial Dao Supremes. Yi Qinghan took out a storage room and then handed a large storage room to Emperor Yi. He said, "This is the material that the insane sect obtained in the Shrouding Sky secret realm. Give it to Qinxue. She will know what to do. Tell her that the insane sect must become stronger quickly. Within 10,000 years, it will at least become one of the strongest sections." 10,000 years to build a strong sect seemed like a long time. However, to the people of the outside world, this was a fool's dream. The foundation of a strong sect was beyond the imagination of ordinary people. The number of disciples they accepted every year was in the hundreds of thousands or even millions. Without resources, how could they afford to train so many people? Yi Qinghan's way of thinking was also abnormal. He decided to develop the upper echelons first. When the 30 or so experts of the insane sect reached the upper level, it would naturally be earth-shattering. It would not be a problem to attract young talents. The two of them did not say much. After Emperor Yi left Yi Qinghan went to find Mo. "Senior brother Mo, can you help me borrow a high-level crafting furnace?" Yi Qinghan asked straightforwardly. Mo looked at Yi Qinghan in surprise and thought, "This guy's physical body is abnormal. I heard that he is also an alchemy expert. His mastery of the occult secret technique is also abnormal. Could it be that he also knows how to craft weapons?" Yi Qinghan poked Mo, who was in a daze. Mo suddenly woke up and quickly said, Oh, no problem. There is a crafting peak in the interception courtyard. The elders there are all master craftsmen. Do you want to ask the elders for help?" Yi Qinghan shook his head confidently and said, "There's no need. I know how to refine weapons too. Furthermore, I want to refine a life support weapon. I can only find out what I really need and improve it during the process. Freak, is there anything you don't know? Mo asked in shock. Yi Qinghan shrugged and sighed, there are many things I don't know. At the very least, my strength is still very, very far away from the legendary level. Mo was somewhat speechless and snorted, if you compare yourself to those freaks, you will probably die of exhaustion. My other two senior brothers and I have also studied the Immortal Canon. Although we only have the first 10 levels of the Immortal Canon, we still haven't completely comprehended it. But in front of senior sister, we can only kneel and beg for mercy. You don't even have a top-level occult secret technique. How can you compare to her? Mo's words were true. Without a top-level occult secret technique, wanting to reach the legendary level was tantamount to a fool's dream. Everything depends on man. Man can conquer nature. Yi Qinghan confidently replied, if from the beginning, I think that I will never be able to catch up to senior sister Fan Yin. Then I will be below her for the rest of my life. Mo Ji shook his head. He had been taught a lesson since young. In this life, he did not expect to surpass senior sister Fan Yin. He also had no interest in listening to Yi Qinghan's ambitions. In his opinion, the only person who could beat Fan Yin in this life was probably Xia Jiulong. Even Xia Jiulong might not be able to beat her in the end. Let's go. I will take you to the crafting peak. The dean said that as long as your request is not excessive, we will agree. Mo said truthfully. Yi Qinghan did not say anything, but he was still very grateful to the sky-reaching church. At least, it was much better than the Holy Empire of the Central Earth. Chapter 1928. The two walked side by side to a lush mountain peak. The fire element around them was extremely lush. Below the peak should be a terrifying active volcano that contained endless high-level fire element. Yi Qinghan could even feel a fire dragon below that was about to break out of its shackles and trample the mountains and rivers. Probably only a holy land like the sky-reaching school would dare to build a sect in such a place. Crafting Peak. Halfway up the mountain, a stone tablet sat there with a majestic aura. It was like a dragon flying and a phoenix dancing, suppressing the heavens. Although Yi Qinghan and Mo's aura were strong, they were suppressed by the stone tablet at this moment. Even a stone from a holy land could kill a powerhouse in an instant. Whoosh! The two took a step forward, and a wave of air rushed over, causing their divine robes to flutter. Sect leader Yi Qinghan of the Mo Dai Crazy sect from the Jia school is here to pay respects to Martial Uncle Master Smelting Peak. Mo bowed and said in a deep voice. His voice reverberated throughout the entire peak. The disciples on the crafting peak all looked over. After all, Mo, one of the three godsons, was a famous figure. Coupled with Yi Qinghan, they would definitely attract everyone's attention. Most of the people on the crafting peak were tall and sturdy men. There were almost no women. Come up. A deep voice slowly spread from the peak to halfway up the mountain. It was as clear as if that person was speaking beside one's ear. Mo gestured to Yi Qinghan and stepped forward. The two entered the top of the crafting peak. There was a temple on the peak. It was completely made of steel and exuded an ancient aura. The dark temple seemed to be connected to the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. The temple's door was closed, as if there was a peerless treasure hidden inside. Why are you looking for this old man? Before the two could speak, another sentence came from inside. Junior brother Yi wants to borrow a high-level crafting furnace. I hope Martial Uncle will agree. Mo said respectfully. Nonsense. How can you casually borrow a high-grade crafting furnace? An angry voice came from within the temple, rudely rejecting Yi Qinghan's request. Mo and Yi Qinghan couldn't help looking at each other in dismay. A high-grade refining furnace was extremely expensive. Even a holy land would only have one or two high-grade furnaces, especially those used by upper realm cultivators. They were extremely precious. Uncle Master Ihua, the dean said. Mo had no choice but to mention the dean's warmth. Then let senior brother Wen Su talk to me. If he personally agrees, then I will agree. Inside the house, Lien Hua coldly interrupted Mo's words. Mo was helpless. He could only look at Yi Qinghan, as if he wanted him to back off. Yi Qinghan stared at the gate of the temple and cupped his fists. Martial Uncle Lianhua, I am Yi Qinghan from the Quanzhong. I will never damage your refining furnace. If it is damaged even a little bit, I will pay you twice the price. Get lost. You are just a lower realm cultivator. How can you control an upper realm refining furnace? I'm afraid that the flame will burn you into nothingness before you even get close. At that time, will this debt be on you or on my sky-piercing school? Lien Hua opened the door and came out. His face was red, which should be caused by being roasted by fire all year round. He had white hair, a spirited spirit, and a burly figure. He was at least 2 meters tall and looked around 50 years old. At this moment, he angrily stared at Yi Qinghan and continued, if you have nothing to do, then get lost. Don't bother this old man refining. A top crafting master. Although his cultivation was only at the upper realm, his status was much higher than ordinary upper realm cultivators. In the sky-piercing school, even Wen Su, Daoist Jiu Ji, and Daoist Wan Jun had to respect him. Martial uncle, don't look down on the younger generation. Although my cultivation is low, my refining skills are definitely not worse than martial uncle's. Yi Qinghan said confidently. Lien Hua was immediately furious. This was even more humiliating than a simple verbal provocation. Refining was the lifelong belief and profession of Master Lien Hua. Any divine weapon he refined was priceless. In the world, there were no more than 10 people who dared to compete with him in refining skills, except for the eternal sovereigns. Mo Yi felt that Yi Qinghan's words were humiliating. He quickly pulled Yi Qinghan and signaled him to stop talking. However, Yi Qinghan wanted to provoke Lien Hua, so he faintly said, Senior, if you are not convinced, I can show you that I, a lower realm cultivator, can also refine auxiliary sacred tools between the middle realm and the upper realm. Ignorant child. Lien Hua's eyes were like torches as he glared at Yi Qinghan. If Yi Qinghan wasn't a guest, he would have already taught him a lesson. If you can't do it, then I'm at Senior's disposal. Yi Qinghan confidently replied. Good. Lien Hua coldly looked at Yi Qinghan and Mo Yi, then said, Follow me. The three of them entered the temple. It didn't look big from the outside, but the inside was different. There was an elevator-like mechanism in the center. The three of them took it all the way down to the deepest part. Each floor had a room. The lower they went, the higher the grade of the refining furnace. The lower they went, the closer they were to the earth fire. When they reached the bottom, even an expert like Mo Yi couldn't withstand the temperature. He was sweating profusely. Yi Qinghan, on the other hand, was calm. The surrounding temperature didn't affect him much. His control over the fire elemental origin had already reached the peak. He had already controlled the true dragon fire essence of the middle realm a few hundred years ago. Now that he was facing a rank 17 earth fire, even if he couldn't completely control it, at least he wouldn't be hurt. Lien Hua looked at Yi Qinghan and was a little surprised. The temperature here was definitely not something a lower realm rookie could withstand. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be so relaxed. Yi Qinghan looked left and right. The room on the left was the sky room, and the one on the right was the earth room. The inscription on the door on the left was emitting a golden light, as if hell was locked inside. The room on the right was slightly better, but it still gave people a terrifying pressure. Boom! Lien Hua's 5 fingers pressed on a finger mark on the door on the right. The door opened automatically. In the center of the room, there was a huge refining furnace. Below the furnace, there was a thick flame. The flame was actually transparent and could steal people's souls. There were many weapons placed on metal racks around the room. Each one of them was priceless. They were all weapons used by middle realm and upper realm cultivators. What kind of auxiliary weapon do you want to refine? Lian Hua asked coldly. Yi Qinghan smiled and said honestly, I want to refine a pair of boots that increase speed. I have already prepared the materials. After saying that, Yi Qinghan placed the top-quality refining materials and the origin of wind crystal on the racks. Each of the materials was top quality. These were the best materials found in the Shrouding Sky secret realm. He kept them all. Lian Hua looked at the materials. They were all materials used by upper realm cultivators. Middle realm cultivators couldn't refine them. Together with the top-quality origin of wind crystal, if he could really refine an auxiliary weapon, it would definitely be an upper saint artifact. Are you sure you want to refine it yourself? Once these materials are placed in the furnace, if you can't refine them, they will be wasted. Lian Hua reminded him in a low voice. Lian Hua didn't want to waste such high-quality materials. He kindly reminded him in hopes that he could refine an even better upper saint artifact. Chapter 1929. Yi Qinghan slowly walked in front of the cauldron. He opened his hands and the temperature of the surrounding flames suddenly increased. The true dragon fire essence turned into a fire dragon and surrounded the cauldron. The temperature of the cauldron instantly rose. Heat waves rushed out in all directions. Mo retreated and his expression changed. Smelter was also shocked. He quickly shielded Mo behind him. Seeing Yi Qinghan's proficiency in controlling the flames, he was really shocked. This was not something a lower-level noob could control. Yi Qinghan crossed his hands and burned the cauldron. The impurities were burned into nothingness. There were no impurities left in the cauldron. Then, Yi Qinghan began to pour the materials into the cauldron. This was the simplest step. The next step was to remove the impurities from the materials. This was the most difficult step. A superior sacred artifact could not tolerate any impurities. One wrong step and everything would be lost. Yi Qinghan's forehead was sweating. His entire body was drenched in sweat. He was severely lacking in water. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. Mo and Smelter could even hear Yi Qinghan's blood roaring. His heart was frantically beating. His flesh was about to melt, but he was still holding on. The fire under the cauldron burned more and more fiercely. It was almost about to ignite Yi Qinghan. At this moment, Smelter realized that he had underestimated Yi Qinghan. At this moment, Yi Qinghan's fingertips trembled. A special liquid appeared in his palm and then flowed through his flesh. This was the divine gold liquid that Yi Qinghan had obtained in the sealed sky prison. It was specially used to refine the body. Hua! Yi Qinghan's body emitted a golden light. The golden light emitted a silvery white color. It was like a flowing treasure. The aura was restrained, but it was exceptionally beautiful. Smelter was shocked. He murmured, "He's refining the body at the same time as refining." Mo Yi did not expect Yi Qinghan's mental strength to be so strong. He looked at the liquid that kept flowing out of Yi Qinghan's palm and asked curiously, "What is that?" Even divine metals rarely appeared in the world. Even if they did appear, they would be bought by eternal sovereigns and would not be circulated in the world, let alone liquid divine metals. Smelter shook his head, but said with certainty, "This is a legendary item used to refine weapons. This guy's luck cannot be underestimated." The high temperature almost melted Yi Qinghan's corporeal body, but the liquid divine gold quickly made up for it. It condensed his corporeal body anew, and his corporeal body became stronger and stronger. There was a lot of liquid divine gold, about a few hundred kilograms. Now, Yi Qinghan could only absorb a few taels of it. In the future, he would need more and more. Perhaps it would be enough to support him until he achieved the eternal corporeal body. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Gurgle gurgle. The temperature in the furnace had refined all the materials in the furnace into liquid form. At this time, 6 hours had passed since Yi Qinghan opened the furnace. Yi Qinghan felt that he had been holding on for a year. He was exhausted. His soul and spiritual power were almost emptied. His corporeal body was sore. If not for the large amount of spiritual power provided by the liquid divine gold to strengthen his corporeal body to the limit, he would not have been able to hold on. The sweat on his forehead had just fallen halfway when it was evaporated by the high temperature. From the beginning until now, Yi Qinghan had absorbed 1/2 kilogram of liquid divine gold. His corporeal body was about to break through to the middle level, but the divine power in his body was empty. He can't hold on any longer. Smelter said with certainty. Mo Yi was very nervous. It would be a pity if so many high-grade materials went to waste. At this time, Yi Qinghan grabbed the void. The blood-boosting pill and blood-burning saint pill in the storage room appeared in his hand. He swallowed the remaining 2 pills. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, the dried-up body was filled with energy. It was like a dried-up mountain and river was poured into a vast ocean. If not for Yi Qinghan's corporeal body being strengthened by dozens of times, he would have been crushed by the majestic energy. Blood-boosting pill, blood-burning saint pill. These are pills that have been lost in the Holy Empire. How did he get them? Smelter was very knowledgeable and said in shock. He might have opened the tomb of some important person in the Holy Empire. Mo Yi thought for a moment and said in a deep voice. Dong dong dong. Yi Qinghan's heartbeat was as powerful as a dragon's heart. The sound echoed in the refining room. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's divine power exploded. The true dragon fire essence around the furnace became even more vigorous. The materials in the furnace were all melted into liquid. The impurities were weak and could not withstand the terrifying flames. They were all burned into nothingness. The liquid in the furnace was actually a high-grade liquid. At this time, Yi Qinghan stopped refining his body and focused on refining the cloud manipulation boots. Rise! Yi Qinghan roared. The lid of the furnace was opened by his divine power. In the blink of an eye, the high-grade wind origin crystal was poured into the furnace. The temperature in the furnace was very high. The wind origin crystal was not very hard to begin with. It was quickly broken apart and turned into profound mysteries that spread into the divine metal liquid. Gurgle gurgle. The high temperature caused the metal liquid to boil. The wind origin crystal was arranged in an orderly manner in the liquid. Yi Qinghan used his divine power to stir the divine liquid. His hand pressed on the furnace and he shouted, "Open." The lid of the furnace opened a little more. Yi Qinghan quickly poured some of the divine gold liquid into it. Boom! The lid of the cauldron was closed once again, and a wave of qi almost destroyed the cauldron. The cauldron kept shaking, and Lianhua's expression changed drastically. He was afraid that Yi Qinghan would destroy this high-grade cauldron. Condense. Yi Qinghan formed a seal with his palms. His divine power stirred the divine liquid and quickly formed the shape of a pair of boots. They were silver and sparkling like water. They looked very light. Hua! The temperature gradually dropped. The boots in the furnace were quickly condensing and taking shape. Every inch of the design had its own logic. They fit perfectly and were not easy to fall off. Most importantly, they could not be damaged. They could withstand the attacks of high-grade martial artists. The boots had not been refined yet, but they were emitting a strong pressure. It was as if an ancient divine weapon had been born. Smelter's pupils shrank. He was very shocked. Yi Qinghan's refining skills were not very high. However, his control of flames had reached the peak. His control of power was also very perfect. His spiritual power was extraordinary. That was why he could refine such a terrifying auxiliary divine weapon. At this time, just a few moments before the boots took shape, Yi Qinghan's legs went soft. He used up all his energy again. It looked like he was about to fail. However, how could Smelter allow such a good material to go to waste? He immediately rushed forward and slammed his palm on the furnace. The lid of the furnace flew away. Boom! The boots were swept out by Smelter's divine power. His 10 fingers formed a profound seal. The boots that were about to fail suddenly released a golden light. The air wave knocked Yi Qinghan and ink away at the same time. Take shape! Smelter shouted. His 10 fingers formed a seal again. An acceleration array was inserted into the boots. Hua! The boots' divine light bathed the entire room. It almost outshined all the other divine weapons in the room. Quick, drip your blood on it and make it your natal divine weapon. It will allow you to become one with it. You will be even faster, Smelter hurriedly said. Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth and struggled to stand up. He fiercely bit the tip of his tongue and spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood. The blood spilled onto the boots and was quickly absorbed by the boots. There was no trace of blood at all. The boots were almost perfect and flawless. They emitted a faint silver light and looked very luxurious. No one would have thought that this pair of boots was a pair of high-grade boots. Yi Qinghan was wild with joy. He hugged the boots as if he was hugging a treasure. He was afraid that he would lose it. Smelter turned his head and stared at Yi Qinghan. He asked in a low voice, "Kid, what liquid did you use to refine your body?" Yi Qinghan did not dare to say that it was liquid divine metal. He hurriedly shook his head and said, "I don't know either. I obtained it by accident. It was just a little bit. I used it all." Smelter curled his lips. He was not satisfied. He wanted to ask Yi Qinghan for more, but Yi Qinghan said that there was no more. Yi Qinghan excitedly hugged the boots and rushed out of the room. Together with ink, he rode a mechanism to the top and stepped out of the temple. The spiritual energy outside assailed his nostrils, and the pores on Yi Qinghan's body opened up. Dense spiritual energy rushed into his body, and his divine power quickly recovered. Chapter 1930. At this moment, Yi Qinghan realized that his physical body had reached the great circle of perfection. As long as the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was not extinguished, he could rapidly recover his divine power and form an eternal cycle with heaven and earth. Ah! Yi Qinghan let out a low roar. He felt refreshed, even more so than when he broke through 2 major realms. Boundless power roared out from his body as a treasure light flowed and radiated in all directions. Moments later, Yi Qinghan felt that the divine power in his body had been restored to its peak. His cultivation had improved by quite a bit. He was so happy that he did not even care about his image. He sat at the entrance of the temple and put on the combat boots. He had made them himself. They fit perfectly and were as light as a feather on his feet. "Sect Master Yi, why don't you show me the power of the combat boots?" Mo Yi stared at the combat boots curiously. It was not that there were no combat boots with auxiliary properties, but not many people would use such extravagant materials to make such high-grade combat boots. Yi Qinghan stood up and jumped excitedly. He had wanted to jump, but without using any strength, he leaped dozens of feet. He was like the wind, and even the heaven and earth confinement order could not restrain his body. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan exerted a little strength and his speed reached its peak. His figure left an afterimage in the void. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan used 50% of his strength and appeared at the foot of the mountain in an instant. He was more than 100 times faster than before. Mo Yi was dumbfounded. He did not expect the combat boots to increase Yi Qinghan's speed by 100 times. These combat boots could increase the speed of an upper-level cultivator by 10 times, let alone a lower-level cultivator like Yi Qinghan. In fact, Yi Qinghan was still unable to unleash the full potential of the combat boots. Once he did, his speed would definitely be at the legendary level. Coupled with a profound footwork like the Green Lotus Immortal Steps, seizing the heavens, he would definitely surpass Xia Jiulong and senior sister Fan Yin under the upper level. Cool. Yi Qinghan said excitedly as he stood at the foot of the mountain. Mo hurriedly ran down from the top of the mountain. His face was full of shock, and he was very covetous. He said frankly, Sect Master Yi, these combat boots are really too awesome. If I had a pair, my combat power would definitely increase by dozens of times. Even if I can't be compared to the legendary big senior sister, it would be enough to instantly kill the holy sons and holy daughters of the same level. Yi Qinghan was also overjoyed. Now that he wore these combat boots, he looked even more divine and had the aura of a war god. Wearing these cloud-treading boots made him look completely different. Ha ha ha, senior brother Mo, I'll make a pair of boots for you before I leave the Transcending Heaven Church. But, you'll have to provide me with the materials, Yi Qinghan laughed heartily and said. The corner of Mo's mouth twitched. He couldn't bear to use this kind of material to make battle boots. Moreover, he didn't have any liquid supreme divine gold, so he probably couldn't buy it even if he wanted to. Mo smiled embarrassedly. He scratched his head and said, I can get the other materials, but I don't have the liquid supreme divine gold that you use to refine your body. Even Martial Uncle Lianhua hasn't seen it. I'm afraid I can't buy it either. Yi Qinghan pretended to be mysterious and said, I won't hide it from senior brother Mo. I still have 2 or 3 grams of this stuff. Don't tell anyone. If you really want to make battle boots, I can give you 1 gram. It's enough to make battle boots. Mo was pleasantly surprised. Once these battle boots were refined, they would be priceless treasures. There wouldn't be a second Yi Qinghan who could provide him with liquid supreme divine gold. Give me 3 years. I'll definitely be able to get the materials. Mo said firmly. Yi Qinghan nodded. He clenched his fists and said solemnly, let's go find senior sister Fan Yin. I want to take revenge. I want to wash away the shame. Hearing this, Mo's legs went soft. He quickly grabbed Yi Qinghan's arm and said, Brother, I advise you not to look for trouble. When senior sister fought with you, she didn't even use 1,000th of her battle strength. She's a true legendary existence. Even if your current speed is on par with her, she can kill you 1,000 times over with her profound skills. The Tai Chi Immortal Cannon was the supreme secret technique of the sky-piercing school. It had a total of 36 levels. It was on the same level as the star arts of the Holy Empire. Fan Yin had probably cultivated to the 27th level, while Mo and the other 2 disciples had only cultivated to the 8th level. The 8th level was already on par with the holy sons of the other holy lands. One could imagine how terrifying Fan Yin's strength was. Yi Qinghan didn't believe it. His strength had increased by at least several times, and his speed had increased by more than 100 times. No matter how bad it was, he could still fight to a draw with Fan Yin. He wouldn't be beaten so miserably. He said confidently, don't worry. My physical body has been strengthened to the limit. My physical body has also reached the great perfection of the same level. I can form a great perfection with the heavens and earth. With my physical body and speed superimposed, my battle strength should be a legendary existence among the same level. I won't lose. After speaking, Yi Qinghan forcefully pulled Mo towards the interception courtyard. It was very lively inside the interception courtyard. Thousands of young boys and girls had gathered in the inner courtyard's martial cultivation grounds. Senior sister Fan Yin seemed to have taken some medicine. She actually took on the responsibility of a teacher. She was preaching and answering the doubts of these young children. Come, come, come. I'm in a good mood today. I'm also bored. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Fan Yin's clothes were very revealing. She was sloppy like a female hooligan. She didn't have the majesty of a legendary expert. She didn't look like a true disciple at all. This group of young children did not understand the horror of the Sanskrit sound, so they all gathered around and chattered non-stop. Yi Qinghan came to the courtyard and almost went berserk. It turned out that the divine bird was actually massaging Fan Yin's shoulders and back with a wretched face. He didn't feel ashamed at all. Instead, he felt honored. Fan Yin, on the other hand, was enjoying it. She said again and again, left side, use more strength. Not bad, not bad. When I see your trash boss next time, I'll snatch you from him. The divine bird smiled flatteringly and said, that's great. It's my honor to serve such a heavenly beauty like you. Huff, huff, huff. Yi Qinghan breathed out a few times. He couldn't stand Fan Yin trying to poach him. The most despicable thing was that she had done it so easily. Fan Yin. I want to challenge you. Yi Qinghan said angrily. Mo had already fled. He didn't dare to stand beside Yi Qinghan. The entire courtyard fell silent. Even the sound of breathing could be heard. Fan Yin was lying lazily on a chair. The slit of her skirt almost reached her thighs. Her slender legs were as white as snow. They were so tender that water could be squeezed out. When she heard Yi Qinghan's challenge, she raised her head and was pleasantly surprised. Little guy, you came at the right time. I was just about to ask you for the contract rights of this little divine bird. I also wanted to teach you a lesson. The past few days have been too boring. Fan Yin sat up slightly. The cleavage in front of her chest could almost bury a person's head. Yi Qinghan was flustered and exasperated. He had never been humiliated like this before. This woman was simply too arrogant. The key was that she didn't look like an expert at all. Chapter 1931. Yi Qinghan was flustered and exasperated. He pointed at Fan Yin and said, you woman, if I don't teach you a lesson today, you won't know the immensity of heaven and earth and what a real man is. Fan Yin was stunned by Yi Qinghan's overbearing tone. In her entire life, only Yi Qinghan had spoken to her like this. No one else had the guts to say such words. You didn't take your medicine today? Fan Yin asked in surprise. Yi Qinghan said angrily, I think you're the one who can't stop taking medicine. A woman who doesn't act like a woman. Do you know what the 3 obedience and 4 virtues are? You're sloppy all day and dress like cotton. It's cooler to be naked. Why don't you take off your clothes? At this time, the entire courtyard was so quiet that even the wind stopped. Everyone stared at Yi Qinghan as if he really didn't take his medicine and had gone crazy. Mo, who was hiding in the distance, broke out in cold sweat and kept wiping it. Fan Yin raised her eyebrows and looked at Yi Qinghan. She clenched her fists and her joints cracked. It seemed like she had made up her mind to beat Yi Qinghan up. Kid, today I'll let you know why the flowers are so red. I'll let you know that even men have to follow the 3 obedience and 4 virtues. Fan Yin sneered and stood up slowly. It was as if the world was attached to her as she stood up. She stood there and represented the world. The great Tao was simple. Yin and Yang were boundless. Tai Chi manifested the 8 trigrams. Boom boom boom. The world changed colors and rumbled continuously. A bolt of lightning flashed across, stealing one's soul. Interesting. I think it's not that you didn't take your medicine today, but that you've eaten a leopard's guts. Fan Yin's sharp eyes shot out a ray of divine light. She became serious like never before. She suppressed her cultivation to the peak of the lower level. It seemed like she didn't want to take advantage of Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan loosened his muscles and bones. His body cracked and his fighting spirit soared. He was confident that his strength had reached the legendary level. If you can withstand 100 moves from me and still stand up, this senior sister will spare you. If you can't, I won't deal with you. I only want this little divine bird. Fan Yin said indifferently. What if I can throw you twice? Yi Qinghan asked seriously. When Fan Yin heard this, she immediately replied disdainfully, if you can throw me twice, I'll help you sleep tonight. Yi Qinghan purposely licked his lips and said in a hoarse voice, I'm really looking forward to it. Fan Yin was furious. Her figure flashed and disappeared in the air. In the blink of an eye, she appeared on Yi Qinghan's left side. Her jade-like hand was already on his shoulder. With a ruthless flick, she was about to smash Yi Qinghan into the ground. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's speed was even faster, almost to the limit. Taking advantage of the momentum, he rushed to the left, grabbed Fan Yin's jade-like hand, and threw it to the left. Boom! Fan Yin did not expect Yi Qinghan's speed to be so fast. She only used 30% of her speed, but 70% of her strength. At this time, she did not have time to change her moves. Yi Qinghan threw her hard onto the ground. She slid a few dozen meters on the ground, her big breasts were squeezed out of shape. Ouch! Fan Yin screamed. Everything happened too suddenly. She was not mentally prepared. Everyone was stunned. The divine bird was overjoyed and screamed, Boss, don't misunderstand this divine bird. I'm loyal and devoted. For Boss, I'm willing to do anything. I'm a loyal person. Just now, she was just being oppressed by her abuse. I had no choice but to pretend to surrender. Yi Qinghan sneered and did not reply. He was about to rush over and teach Fan Yin a lesson, but Fan Yin slapped the ground with her jade-like hand and stood up. From falling to standing up, it only took a blink of an eye. Many people did not see what happened. Cough cough, Fan Yin patted the dust off her chest and pretended to be calm. However, she was shocked. She stared at Yi Qinghan and thought, how did this bastard's speed become so fast? This old lady was careless and actually suffered a great loss. Fortunately, not many people saw it. Otherwise, my prestige would be swept to the ground. Yi Qinghan pointed at Fan Yin provocatively and said, so, big senior sister is only a so-so. Come on, I'll throw you again. Today, you'll have to serve me in bed. Yi Qinghan deliberately angered Fan Yin. As long as Fan Yin lost her mind, he could throw her again today. Fan Yin's expression turned serious. She said coldly, there's no good in angering me. Whoosh! The surrounding space and time changed. Fan Yin's level was still suppressed at the peak of the lower level, but her aura had increased by hundreds of times. Her body was clearly in front of her, but the space was slowly distorting. It was as if she had left her original spot. Yi Qinghan was shocked. At this time, he realized that Fan Yin's speed was too fast. It was at the limit. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yi Qinghan also increased his speed. He wanted to find Fan Yin's real location. Everyone could only see Yi Qinghan's afterimage. They could not find Fan Yin's location. Boom! Bang! Just as lightning flashed and thunder roared, a figure appeared behind Yi Qinghan and kicked Yi Qinghan's back, sending him to the ground. Bang bang bang! Fan Yin appeared and punched and kicked Yi Qinghan's body like raindrops. Yi Qinghan's powerful golden body did not seem to have any resistance. Fan Yin's attacks went straight for the source of his soul. The tearing pain disrupted his consciousness. Boom! Yi Qinghan rolled to the ground. He did not even look back. He pulled back his arm and threw it behind him, hoping to buy some time to stabilize his body. However, Just as his arm was thrown behind him, it was caught by Fan Yin. She used the force to throw him back. Crack! With a crisp sound, the bones in his arm were broken by this perverted woman. At this moment, the most panicked person was the divine bird. It had just shown its loyalty, but Yi Qinghan had been defeated. "Damn, you're all pretty but useless," the divine bird said angrily. Yi Qinghan was burning with anger. He drove the true dragon fire essence in all directions and attacked indiscriminately. A wave of qi rushed to the periphery, almost hitting the young disciples who had just joined the sect. Whoosh! Fan Yin flew backward. Her hands drew a Tai Chi Yin and Yang symbol in the air. She drew the heat waves from all directions. Yi Qinghan's explosive power was absorbed into her palms. Her palms formed a ball of qi. Lightning and fire filled it. It was like a volcano that was about to erupt. Once it was released, it could destroy the world. Yi Qinghan steadied himself. Seeing that Fan Yin had actually reached this step, he felt a sense of defeat in his heart. This woman was truly too terrifying. Against someone of the same level, not only could she defeat him, but she could also protect the surrounding newbies. Open! Yi Qinghan's body was like a knife. He slashed at Fan Yin with majestic power. After Fan Yin absorbed all the violent fire elements around her into her palms, she channeled some of the power in her body and blasted it at Yi Qinghan. Boom! The ball of qi collided with Yi Qinghan's leg. The two terrifying forces collided. Qi soared into the sky. The inner courtyard of the Interception Institute shook as if there was an earthquake. Run! Mo shouted from afar. Whoosh! All the young disciples fled the inner courtyard. They did not even dare to watch. Boom! Fan Yin pulled her palms back. Then, she pushed forward with all her might. She pushed Yi Qinghan back with lightning speed. Yi Qinghan's strongest attack was defeated. Chapter 1932. Boom! Yi Qinghan felt as if he had kicked a supreme sacred artifact. Fortunately, the cloud-treading boots had blocked most of the force. His body flew back in a panic, and after falling to the ground, he still had to retreat dozens of steps before the impact dissipated. Crack! Yi Qinghan shook his neck and his body stiffened. 80% of his strength had dissipated. Although his body had reached the perfect realm and could recover very quickly, he could not withstand such a high-intensity attack. Fan Yin carefully stared at Yi Qinghan, scanning his body, and finally stared at the boots. She seemed to understand why Yi Qinghan's speed had suddenly soared so much. "You bastard, you actually used an auxiliary superior sacred artifact to bully me. Today, if I don't beat you until you beg for mercy, I'll take your surname." Fan Yin felt that she had been tricked and immediately became furious. Yi Qinghan shrugged. He wanted to make Fan Yin suffer again. Moreover, there were only 30 moves left in the 100 moves. Regardless of whether he could withstand 100 moves or defeat her again, Fan Yin would have nothing to say. Suddenly, Fan Yin took out a yin-yang bagua mirror and stared at Yi Qinghan with an evil smile. After Yi Qinghan saw the level of the mirror, he took several steps back and said in a panic, "Senior Sister Fan Yin, can we not act shamelessly? What level is this thing? I'm only wearing support-type combat boots. They increase my speed, not a weapon. It's just a small mirror, a pseudo-eternal sacred artifact. It's definitely not a weapon for you." Fan Yin stepped forward, facing Yi Qinghan, and said with an evil smile. Yi Qinghan broke out in a cold sweat. He was no match for her. Now that she took out such a powerful sacred artifact, how could he fight? "I admit defeat," Yi Qinghan said straightforwardly. "Admit defeat?" Fan Yin sneered and said, "In my place, there is no such thing as admitting defeat. There is only crippling or kneeling and begging for mercy. Do you choose to be crippled or beg for mercy? Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He did not expect this woman to be so unforgiving. What do you want? If I go all out, I might be able to beat you to the ground again. If you lose, you'd better be careful that you don't sleep with me. Yi Qinghan threatened. Ha 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 ha, Fan Yin laughed and said, I admire people like you who have no strength but are still arrogant. If you want me to serve you in bed, that will depend on your ability. Whoosh! As soon as Fan Yin finished speaking, the 8 trigrams mirror released a divine light that bathed in all directions. It actually enveloped the entire cultivation field of the Jie yard. Yi Qinghan felt as if he had fallen into a viscous swamp. His entire body was unable to exert any strength. As a result, it was extremely difficult for him to even move, much less fight. Let me show you the power of the Taiji Immortal Codex. Fan Yin shouted in a low voice. After he finished speaking, he crossed his palms and the 8 trigrams mirror appeared in the air to bind the entire training field. Yi Qinghan's power was instantly confined. Boom! Fan Yin's slender jade-like arms drew a yin-yang diagram in the sky. The power of heaven and earth was drawn over. The majestic power could topple mountains and overturn seas, destroying space and time. Yi Qinghan stood in place, his eyes almost popping out. If this palm hit him, even if his physical body was invincible, he would not be able to withstand her attack. Senior sister. Good senior sister, let's stop fooling around. I'll beg for mercy. Yi Qinghan was extremely shocked. As the saying goes, a wise man does not fight when the odds are against him. Lowering one's head was better than being heavily injured. At this time, Mo did not care about the danger. He quickly rushed over and said, Senior sister, Sect Master Yi is a guest. You can't kill him. But the power had already been gathered. Fan Yin could no longer withdraw it. Kid, resist with all your strength. Whether or not you can stand up will depend on your luck. Fan Yin waved her hand and withdrew the 8 trigrams mirror, giving Yi Qinghan a chance to gather power. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end. He desperately absorbed spiritual power. His veins popped out. Although he could not reach the heavens, he could at least control half of the aura. Yi Qinghan activated the 5 elements dragon. The 5 elements heavenly dragon wrapped around his body. The flaming true dragon roared out, and the surrounding temperature rose rapidly. Whoosh! With the help of the cloud boots, his peak speed and strength were fully unleashed. He could not care less about his foundation because Fan Yin was about to burst out. Boom boom boom. The earth and sky could be felt shaking in a radius of 3,000 miles around the sky-reaching school. The godsons of the other 2 schools rushed to the sky and went straight to the interception school. They saw that Fan Yin had used the ultimate power of the peak of the lower realm, and the power of the Tai Chi Immortal Codex. Yi Qinghan alone could not block it. They did not want to intervene, but Yi Qinghan represented an immortal elixir. If Yi Qinghan died, the eccentric sect would have nothing to lose. The loss would be immeasurable. Mo, let's work together. The 3 godsons rushed to the sky. The Tai Chi 8 trigrams array appeared in the sky, almost covering the sky and the sun. In an instant, monstrous power surged out. Boom! Fan Yin pushed his palms forward, and his divine power roared. It was like the sea had broken through the dam, and a flood rushed toward the 4 of them. The 4 masters were the top masters of the saint level, but their faces suddenly changed. In the face of Fan Yin, they were like duckweeds in the sea, and could be annihilated at any time. Whoosh! After Fan Yin made his strongest attack, he quickly landed on the ground and used the shadowless celestial step. His hands were in the sky, and he continued to draw the Tai Chi seal, ready to face the aftermath. Boom! The Tai Chi 8 trigrams array formed by the 3 godsons was instantly shattered by the impact. The three masters were sent flying by the thunderous force, and they vomited blood. Their bodies were torn apart, and their blood splattered on the ground. Een! Roar! At the last moment, Yi Qinghan's golden body had also turned into a dragon. Together with the 5 elements heavenly dragon and the flaming true dragon, the 7 heavenly dragons entangled and roared together, forming a terrifying force that evolved into an illusory figure. It was himself. The illusory figure was also evolving the Tai Chi Yin and Yang. Although it did not have the essence of the Tai Chi Immortal Codex, it was similar. Boom! The two attacks smashed together. In an instant, the sky-reaching church shone brightly. Immortal light soared into the sky and enveloped the entire sky-reaching church, protecting all the palaces and buildings. Crack! The stone slabs of the training field cracked. This was a formation that was used against upper-level cultivators, but it could not block the aftermath of the two's attacks. Yi Qinghan's defensive chi gradually collapsed, and his illusory figure was distorted, ready to explode at any time. Boom! Buzz! Yi Qinghan's true body appeared. His large hand rushed out with a monstrous light, blocking Fanin's attack. His left hand moved the Rui bell, and the sound of the bell rumbled as if it came from the end of the world. It was deep and full of Buddha's will. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's body was covered in holy Buddha's light. The pressure on him was reduced by more than 70%, and he felt much more relaxed. Now's the time. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. Without the terrifying pressure, he crushed the stone slabs under his feet. It was as if his golden body had turned into a heavy sword, and he became one with the sword. He tore through Fanin's attack and went straight for Fanin's true body. Fanin was shocked. She did not expect Yi Qinghan to break through her attack. While she hesitated, the sword light had already torn through the shackles and appeared in front of her. Boom! Fusion formula. Fanin became serious. She put her palms together and pressed down on the back of Yi Qinghan's heavy berserk blade. She was pushed back by the force. Her long hair was like steel needles, and her divine robe was torn apart, flapping in the wind, revealing her snow-white skin. Return formula. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Fanin took a few steps back, holding the heavy berserk blade with both hands. Stick formula. Tremor formula. Fanin's voice was low, and the path of his divine power was clearly visible. He pulled at Yi Qinghan, and in the end, he flung Yi Qinghan away. However, it did not contain much attack power. Boom! Yi Qinghan flew 360 degrees and landed on the ground. His body should have been out of control, but he twisted his body, and his hands drew a Tai Chi 8 trigrams array, which dissipated 80% of the impact. Return formula. Yi Qinghan roared. He drew a semicircle with his left leg, and with his hands spread out, he stood firmly on his feet. Fanin's eyes were wide open. She stared at Yi Qinghan in disbelief, as if she had seen a ghost. Chapter 1933. Fanin's fingertips trembled slightly. It was not because Yi Qinghan had hurt her, but because Yi Qinghan had secretly learned the Tai Chi Immortal Codex during the battle. Moreover, he had learned 50% of the Tai Chi Immortal Codex without relying on the mental cultivation method. Just how terrifying was his martial cultivation talent? Fuck! Fanin blurted out. Huff! Huff! Dong! Dong! Yi Qinghan breathed out a few mouthfuls of turbid air. His heart had already reached its limit. If he did such a high-load exercise again, his heart would explode. How much foundation do you have? Use all of it. I won't hold back today. Fanin rolled up her sleeves and said unwillingly. Yi Qinghan's expression changed. His legs went soft, and he actually knelt on the ground. Then, he sat cross-legged on the ground and said shamelessly, I've already used all of my foundation. If senior sister bullies me again, it will damage the reputation of the sky-reaching sect. But you bastard actually dared to secretly learn the Tai Chi Immortal Codex of the sky-reaching sect. Tell me, who told you the mental cultivation method? Fan Yin asked angrily with her hands on her hips. Yi Qinghan smiled embarrassedly and pointed at Fan Yin. Senior sister, no one told me the mental cultivation method. You used the moves in the Immortal Codex, and I copied them. At this moment, the three godsons climbed up from the pool of blood with lingering fear on their faces. In this world, only they knew how many times more powerful a true legendary level expert would be. When one reached Fan Yin's level, even a slight improvement would increase one's battle strength by several times. Fan Yin had no way to vent her anger. When she saw the three godsons, she immediately found someone to vent her anger on. She pointed at Mo and the other two and said angrily, You three trash, look. This little trash is stronger than you. I let you cultivate the Tai Chi Immortal Codex, but you only reached the 8th level after so many years. He could comprehend some of it after watching me do it once. Compared to him, you're just mud that can't support a wall. The three godsons' expressions changed slightly, but they didn't get angry. It seemed that they had been abused all year round, so they didn't care about their dignity in front of Fan Yin. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the ruins. Although he was exhausted, he was very happy at this moment. Although he did not have the mental cultivation method of the Taiji Immortal Code, he had learned a few moves based on his experience. The power might not be as strong as Fan Yin's, but if he fought with her a few more times, he would definitely be able to learn 70 to 80%. When Fan Yin saw that the three godsons did not fight back or curse back, he could only store his anger in his heart. He looked at Yi Qinghan, his figure flashed, and he kicked Yi Qinghan fiercely, saying, I'll spare you for now. I'll deal with you tonight. Yi Qinghan wasn't angry. Instead, he smiled and said, Welcome to my bed. I can't beat you on the battlefield, but I can torture you 1,000 times in bed without a problem, boom boom boom. Fan Yin's temper flared up, and he started punching and kicking Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan grimaced in pain. Although his mouth felt good, his body was in extreme pain. I'll let you torture me. I'll let you torture me. When you surpass me in the same realm, we'll talk about serving me in bed. After beating Yi Qinghan up, Fan Yin's anger subsided quite a bit. She stepped on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and said domineeringly. Yi Qinghan lay on the ground and looked up. His eyes widened as he stared at those slender white legs. He could actually see the underwear underneath clearly. He almost saw that piece of news. Senior sister, you've been exposed. Yi Qinghan raised his large finger and pointed at the center of her legs with a sinister smile. Only then did Fan Yin realize that this position was a little indecent. She quickly retracted her long legs and glared fiercely at Yi Qinghan. She quickly ran out of the Jia courtyard, followed by the other two courtyard's godsons. At this moment, Wen Su appeared out of nowhere and stared at Yi Qinghan. The emotions in his eyes were very different. Immeasurable heavenly sovereign, sect master Yi, please follow me to the main hall. Wen Su said in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan looked at his eyes and knew that Wen Su already knew that he had secretly learned the Taiji Immortal Scripture. It seemed that Wen Su had been watching Fan Yin torture him before. He couldn't help but feel a little unhappy. Yi Qinghan followed Wen Su into the main hall. The main hall was magnificent but somewhat low-key. One could see that each arrangement contained the pinnacle of the Grand Tao. Wen Su stepped on the throne in the main hall. There was a huge statue behind the throne. It was a majestic old man holding the sun and moon in his hand and stepping on the universe. He was like a supreme spiritual god. Wen Su stepped on the stone steps and respectfully kowtowed 3 times. He then stood up and faced Yi Qinghan and said, this is the statue of my Transcending Heaven School's Supreme Schoolmaster. Why aren't you bowing? Yi Qinghan slowly knelt down in the main hall and respectfully kowtowed 3 times. He then looked at Wen Su with a curious expression. He didn't know what Wen Su wanted to do. Wen Su looked down at Yi Qinghan and said in a deep voice, "You secretly learned my Transcending Heaven School's immortal scripture. Do you know what punishment you deserve?" Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly and said, "Senior, I didn't secretly learn it. I was forced to learn it. Moreover, I learned it from senior sister Fan Yin in public. How can you say that I secretly learned it?" Wen Su looked at Yi Qinghan with displeasure and said indifferently, "Are you quibbling? Do you dare to tell me that you didn't deliberately learn the immortal scripture by challenging Fan Yin?" Yi Qinghan was speechless. He really did challenge Fan Yin to comprehend the mystery of Tai Chi. This kind of thing couldn't be hidden from this old fox. The Tai Chi immortal scripture is a secret technique of my school. Apart from the 3 great disciples and Fan Yin, no one is qualified to learn it. Since you have learned it, this old man can only give you 2 choices. First, join my Transcending Heaven School and become my disciple. Second, let me destroy your memory of the Tai Chi immortal scripture." Wen Su said frankly. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows. He obviously couldn't accept the 2 choices given by Wen Su. Of course, joining the Transcending Heaven School won't prevent you from establishing a sect outside. However, you have to recognize this master sect in your heart. If the master sect is in trouble, you have to lead the eccentric sect to do your best. Wen Su explained. Yi Qinghan's eyes suddenly lit up. This situation was acceptable. However, he couldn't just let the eccentric sect only have responsibilities and obligations. There must be benefits. If the eccentric sect is in trouble, will the Transcending Heaven School protect the eccentric sect? Yi Qinghan asked. Of course, we will help. Sometimes, although we can't fall out with those holy lands, we can still send people to help secretly. Wen Su nodded and said. Yi Qinghan rubbed his hands and said with a smile, "That's the best. It's my honor to be able to join the Transcending Heaven School. But I don't know which senior I will be apprenticed to. Will I belong to the level of a godson or a true disciple?" Wen Su silently glanced at Yi Qinghan, shook his head and said, "Definitely not a godson. A godson is not allowed to go out and establish a sect. As for your situation, I have to discuss it with the other 2 senior brothers before I can decide." Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "A simple name is also okay. I don't care about the name." Chapter 1934. Wen Su glanced at Yi Qinghan. He knew that Yi Qinghan did not have a strong sense of belonging to the sky-reaching school. However, he was not willing to give up on someone with such talent. You may not care, but the sky-reaching school cares. Wen Su left the Jia yard after saying that. Yi Qinghan walked out of the palace hall and stood on the training field, recalling Fan Yin's Tai Chi celestial scriptures mystique. He kept on probing and cultivating, hoping that he would be able to deduce the true top-notch mystique. Fighting with a legendary existence like Fan Yin was better than 1,000 years of secluded cultivation. Wen Su found the 9 extremes Taoist and Wanhong holy man. He told them about Yi Qinghan's situation. The 2 ultimate experts were also shocked. They knew how difficult it was to cultivate the Taiji Immortal Codex. The 3 of them had cultivated for countless years and were still stuck at the 31st level. They could not advance even a single step. There's only one possibility for someone to be able to comprehend some of the mysteries of the Taiji Immortal Code through his battle with Fan Yin. He's someone who's naturally suited to cultivate this immortal code. I'm afraid we'll have to seek the help of our teacher from the paradise, Wanhong holy man said seriously. The 9 extremes Taoist nodded and agreed with Wanhong holy man. Wen Su thought for a moment, then bowed and said, "Senior brothers, then junior brother will go to the blessed land's paradise to ask master for his opinion." Go. The two elders nodded at the same time. When Su disappeared from the main hall, only the 9 extremes Taoist and Wanhong holy man were left. The two of them had serious expressions. They were too worried about Yi Qinghan because there were some mysterious people standing behind Yi Qinghan. There were also the 2 protectors of the heavenly demon sect. The 2 of them disappeared silently. When they reappeared, they were already standing at the peak of the sky. It was as if they were standing in a different space. They looked down at Yi Qinghan on the training field of the Jia Yard. They saw that he was deducing the 10-cross mantra in the Taiji Immortal Codex step by step. There were actually several mantras that were 70% similar to the 10-cross mantra in the Immortal Codex. It was just that there was no mantra to support it. A martial cultivation genius, said the 9 extreme Taoist with a deep voice. Wanhong holy man sighed, it's a pity that he's not a member of the sky-reaching school. Now he has other eternal sovereigns backing him. A few days ago, the holy maiden of the Oshi Holy Land came to tell us that she was going to marry a disciple of Yi Qinghan, and the little sister of the martial Tao Supremacy Holy Land was also going to marry Yi Qinghan. This old man can't calculate his life trajectory, let alone figure out which big shot is backing him. Junior brother Wenshu will naturally inform master of the situation. He will make his own decision. At worst, he will just destroy Yi Qinghan's memories of the Immortal Codex. 9 extreme Taoists' words seemed calm, but there was too much reluctance and unwillingness in them. For people like them, if they couldn't advance to the eternal realm in this lifetime, it would be great if they could cultivate a powerful eternal realm expert. When they met a genius, they really didn't want to give up. The two stared at Yi Qinghan, and the emotions in their eyes changed. Yi Qinghan was still cultivating and comprehending. He recalled his shortcomings in the battle with Fan Yin, why he lost, and then constantly improved. At this moment, his speed was even faster than before. The mysterious secret technique was like moving clouds and flowing water, and he changed his moves in an instant. The blessed land of the sky-reaching school was a small world independent of the big world. It was a small world created by the sky-reaching school's leader. The rules and order inside were even stricter than the eternal world. Experts were as common as clouds, immortal chi pervaded the air, and clouds lingered around the top of the sky. Immortals and mortals coexisted, but there were not many wars. There weren't many people in the blessed land, but martial cultivation was the norm. There were martial arts experts everywhere. The contents of the Taiji Immortal Codex seemed to be open to the people in the blessed land. Most people had cultivated to the 8th level and above, and some children had cultivated to the 10th level. They were even stronger than Mo and the other 2 godsons. There were many secret techniques in the Taiji Immortal Codex, and the 10-word formula was just one of them. If one could cultivate a secret technique to the peak state, one could reach the legendary level after leaving the blessed land, and fight against the 10 overlords. This was the foundation of the sky-reaching school. The 3 godsons didn't know about the situation inside the blessed land, and only knew that there was a blessed land. In an elegant valley, a lake, a pavilion, a chimney, a boat, flowing water, mountain rocks, and ancient trees intertwined to form a beautiful fairyland. Whoosh! On one side of the lake, a willow tree hung down, and the sun shone. A wooden bridge stretched more than 10 meters deep into the lake, and there was a small pavilion at the end of the bridge. A white-haired old man was sitting in the pavilion. His clothes were ragged, and he leaned lazily on a chair. The sun shone on his face, making him sleepy. The old man's face exuded a sense of vicissitudes and history, but there was no sense of decay. His white hair and youthful face made people revere him. The old man held a fishing rod in his hand and let the fish bite the bait. He didn't pull up the fishing rod, as if he was really asleep. At this moment, a slender and beautiful leg appeared in his sight. It was Fan Yin. She took off her boots and tiptoed toward the old man barefoot. She had an evil smile on her face, as if she wanted to scare the old man. The old man didn't seem to feel anything and let Fanine approach. 5 meters, 3 meters, 2 meters, Fanine appeared behind the old man and was about to shout into his ear. But just as she was about to circulate her energy, the old man suddenly turned his head and roared. His voice was like a bell, and it exploded in Fanine's mind. "Damn girl, you want to scare me again." Boom! Fanine trembled, and goosebumps appeared all over her body. Her brain was like paste, and her body fell straight into the water. "Ah! You old bastard! You scared me to death." Fanine screamed, and with a few splashes, she climbed out of the water and onto the bamboo bridge. She spat out a mouthful of river water and looked at the old man angrily. Her whole body was wet, and she looked very seductive. But the old man didn't even turn his head and continued to lean on the chair and bask in the sun. Fanine saw that the old man ignored her, and quickly changed her clothes. She pulled a chair out of nowhere and sat beside the old man. She said angrily, "You only know how to waste your time. Can't you be more promising?" The old man squinted at Fanine and said lazily, "Little girl, do you know what it means to respect your teacher? It's a bad habit to disturb the rest of the old man." Fanine suddenly exploded. She stood on the chair and pointed at the old man, roaring, "You don't respect your elders, and you want me to respect my teacher. When have I not been humiliated by you? You want me to respect you?" The old man shook his head and dug his ears with his fingers. He said, "You're not big, but your voice is quite loud, cut the crap. I'm here today because I have something to talk to you about. A few days ago, I met a weirdo in the outside world. He actually managed to learn about 50 to 60% of my 10-word formula after exchanging a few moves with me. I heard that this bastard obtained the flying immortal elixir from the shrouding sky secret realm. He's being held hostage in the sect. A martial arts genius with a great opportunity. It's a pity to kill him. What's his background?" The old man opened his eyes slightly and asked curiously, "You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."